Chapter 408. What happened just now? It was not until Lin Ke was dragged out of the arena by Geezer Shi that Lu Chang, the host in the live broadcast room, came back to his senses and asked Qin Sanxing, the guest commentator beside him. First, Peng Liyun, who was about to win the match, was strangely sluggish, as if he had become a puppet. This allowed Lin Ke, who was in a dead-end situation, to turn the tables and reverse the situation. Then Lin Ke, who was obviously much weaker than Peng Liyun, crazily suppressed Peng Liyun as if he had cheated. Boom, boom, boom. The waves of fire created a scene of a real explosion. However, this development did not last long. After a few moves, Lin Ke took the initiative to stop, and the referee anxiously announced Peng Liyun's victory. Just a single part of the story was already inconceivable and incomprehensible, let alone when they were combined. It's not that I don't have enough brains, it's just that this world is too amazing. Lu Chang's words brought Qin Sanxing back to his senses. He calmed himself down and said, "It should be Lin Ke's Arcana? Awakened Arcana?" Lu Chang was slightly stunned. He had never seen a direct disciple of a large sect awaken their superpowers in an uncontrollable manner. Yes, look at this. Qin Sanxing pointed at the slow motion shown by the director in time. Peng Liyun didn't freeze there. He just slowed down his movements as if he was in a quagmire. Chang, what do you think? The power of the earth, one of the characteristics of the combat sect. Lu Chang came to a realization. Lin Ke suddenly awakened his supernatural ability and temporarily restrained Peng Liyun. That was how he managed to escape death. After that, he tried to rely on the burst of power when his supernatural ability was awakened to defeat his opponent. However, Peng Liyun was no ordinary person. He managed to hold his ground in a wretched state. When the burst was over, Lin Ke, who had suffered a strong backlash, naturally couldn't hold on any longer. All of his previous questions had been answered. But he's a disciple of Shushan's study. Didn't his elders teach him how to awaken slowly? Lu Chang was confused. Most people would only lose control when they awaken their arcana. As a former martial artist, Qin Sanxing had collected a lot of information. When he heard that Lin Ke's father used to be a coach at Songqing University, he suddenly felt emotional. Lin Ke must be aware of the consequences of his actions. He also understands that the losses outweigh the gains. But for him, for a martial artist, there are some things that are duty-bound to do. Even if there are tens of thousands of people, he will still press on. Lu Chang was about to say something else when the broadcast switched back to the center of the venue due to Lu Cheng's arrival. Seeing that Peng Liyun's clothes were full of burn marks, his face was slightly pale, and his muscles were slightly trembling, he was stunned again and blurted out, "Peng Liyun is injured. This is getting interesting." Qin Sanxing raised his eyebrows and sighed. Lin Ke's ignition had really lit up the light of hope for Songqing University. It all depended on whether Lu Cheng could grasp this opportunity and surpass the big demon king. Hearing the host and guest commentator's explanation, Yan Shaoling removed the hand that was covering her eyes. She was a little happy and felt a lump in her throat. She subconsciously turned her head and looked at Mu Jinyan, only to see her roommate sobbing and wiping her face with a tissue. Looking back, there were also many posts in the forum that were full of praises and exclamations. Lin Ke is really giving it his all. Wrote Unparalleled Dragon King. No way. He Xiaowei touched his thick beard and muttered to himself, "Do I really have the supernatural power of the toxic healer?" He refreshed his Weibo and saw several new comments. Kneel down seriously. I shouldn't have wavered. Old immortal, please accept me. How could he turn this around? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Covering ears. In the beginning, I only believed that fate was great. But in the end, I was powerless to see clearly that the strong were the toxic healers. In another place, in another room, all-knowing man in Jianghu took a deep breath and told himself that even if Lu Cheng was injured, he might not be able to defeat Peng Liyun. Even if he could, he would be at his limit and wouldn't be able to defeat Fang Zhirong. In the stands, Empress Dowager Ji Mingyu clenched her right hand and opened it again and again, murmuring, "This guy is really." She repeated the word really several times but still couldn't think of a suitable curse word. Our Ji family has the two bloodlines of willfulness and stubbornness. This is really something Lin Ke would do. Yen Kai heaved a long sigh. He had been influenced by what he saw and heard all year round. Naturally, he knew the price Lin Ke had to pay for what he did just now. He turned his head to look at his wife and released his palm. He patted Ji Mingyu's other shoulder and comforted her. "Don't worry. With Coach Shi and Mom and Dad protecting him, there won't be any serious consequences. Who hasn't been reckless and impulsive when they were young? Ji Mingyu sighed and said, with this, his chances of becoming a physical invulnerability expert are reduced by at least half. If Lin Ke could follow the normal process, it would be easy for him to enter the high pin and become an inhuman before the age of 22. He would have enough time and potential to reach the physical invulnerability realm. But now it would take him about a year and a half to recover. At that time, due to the awakening of his supernatural ability and the improvement of his physical fitness, he would be able to reach the 6th pin level very quickly. But it wouldn't be so easy for him to reach the inhuman stage. Yan Kai opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but then he saw the guy who had abducted his little princess standing in front of Peng Liyun. The atmosphere suddenly became tense again. Even the audience who didn't have strong inclinations felt the suffocation of the final match. In the substitutes bench of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Geezer Shi suppressed the backfire in Lin Ke's body and stabilized his condition. He ordered Li Mao and Kai Zongming to send him to the emergency room for follow-up treatment. Yan Zhika looked at her cousin whose pale skin was covered with frost. Her eyes were obviously red and her fists were clenched tightly. She wanted to take responsibility for herself. She turned her eyes back to the arena. Her eyes reflected Lu Cheng's tall and straight body. This time I didn't have time to cheer for you, but my heart is with you. In the seats of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Fang Zhirong, Su Wanyin, and the others looked more dignified. They felt something called pressure. For the first time, they felt that the champion of this competition was not so safe. Whether it was good or bad, it all depended on the next round of battle. The long roar was still echoing. It seemed to have condensed into a sound column connecting the 9 heavens. It came from afar and shook people's hearts. Lu Cheng's fighting spirit was burning. His momentum was like a rainbow. He turned into a whistling north wind and rolled into the arena. He stood opposite Peng Liyun at a distance. His blood was surging and his emotions were surging. Hormones were secreted, stimulating his qi and blood to become stronger. His strength and speed seemed to have increased, as if he had been injected with stimulants. Normally he would follow this momentum and fiercely attack to vent his emotions and completely defeat his opponent. However, Lu Cheng was very clear that Peng Liyun was not an ordinary person. He was the heavenly son of the age and deserved the title of Big Devil. When facing such an opponent, even if he was injured, he could not take it down in one breath. If he was impatient and reckless, he would seize the opportunity and win in one fell swoop. Of course, he could not give up this feeling of burning, stirring, and this feeling of momentum soaring to the sky. He would lose a certain advantage. Therefore, he had to fight according to his master's words. Mind like fire, heart like ice. Aggression like fire, calm like ice. Well, in Peng Liyun's current state, he would not be able to take 3 internal explosions. While Lu Cheng was pondering, the referee had already raised his right hand. Peng Liyun had also refocused the light in his eyes. It was as if 2 bolts of lightning had leaped out of thin air, illuminating the surroundings and causing Lu Cheng's mind to tremble slightly. With a whoosh, the referee's palm fell and the voice came out, "Begin!" Crack. Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun moved at the same time. The former burst out his Dan force, his legs thickened and flew out with a momentum like a rainbow. The latter withdrew his qi and blood, lowered his waist and then released it, like a cloud floating forward, flash attack, on his opponent. They both chose to attack at the beginning of the game. This battle had entered the white-hot stage as soon as it started. Both of them pounced at high speed. The distance of 8 or 9 meters disappeared in an instant. They charged at each other and had no room to adjust. They could only lean sideways, bulge their muscles and stick to each other. Bang! It was like 2 cars collided in the middle of the arena. The sound was so loud that the air billowed. Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun's bodies seemed to be frozen. The trembling of their muscles and the bouncing of their large tendons were subtle but clear. After a moment, they both stepped back and cracked the bluestone with a stomp. Lu Cheng just steadied himself and bent his body forward, his 2 arms hanging naturally. His wrists hooked and shook, shooting out a white cold light that moved close to the ground and a red fireball that penetrated the airflow. Burning ice and flame. With such a short distance and such a tight attack, Peng Liyun didn't even have time to use the astral steps. It seemed that he had no other choice but to take it head-on. At this moment, the light in his eyes grew brighter. His palms glowed silvery white and suddenly clapped in front of him. Boom! This clap was no longer a crisp and short paw. It was like a thunderclap. The sound wave and airflow swept out, instantly destroying the unstable crystal cold light and violent fireball. Lu Cheng's body and mind were shaken, and he was temporarily frightened by the scene of blooming fireworks. Bzzz. Bzzz. Peng Liyun opened his palms and pulled out a thin silvery white electric light like a thin blade. In a flash, the electric light had already cut in front of Lu Qing. If he hadn't been affected by the sudden thunder, Lu Qing would have noticed when Peng Liyun's palms were about to separate. He would have dodged and defended. However, he was half a beat too late. Once the electric light came out, no human could stop it. With a sizzling sound, Lu Qing's hair stood on end. The clothes on his chest were burnt, revealing his charcoal black skin. Thunder from a clear sky, cloudless thunder saber. In the live broadcast room, Qin Sanxing said in astonishment. He didn't expect that the injured Peng Liyun could seize the initiative so quickly and create a chance for victory. This was the killing move of the Thunder Sect's unique physical invulnerability skill. Of course, Peng Liyun hadn't mastered it, not even simplified it. He had simply imitated its characteristics and created a martial art that was similar to it. While Qin Sanxing was speaking, Peng Liyun's body naturally and smoothly bounced back to Lu Qing's front. In his mind, he visualized the scene where the green and silver lightning bombarded the ground and ignited a noisy golden fire. As this scene appeared, he seemed to have been hit by the lightning in his qi and blood hub, lower dantian, and buttocks. His body erupted with power beyond what he had ever had before. His arm muscles bulged and his fist was wrapped in red flames. He punched at Lu Qing at a burning speed. The 15th move of the Thunder Sect, simplified physical invulnerability, Fiery Thunderbolt. The effect of this move was an explosive increase in strength accompanied by the burning of flames. Peng Liyun didn't master the essence of this move until it began to transform with the help of the supernatural ability. At this time, Lu Qing had just recovered from the numbness. He had imagined that Peng Liyun would be difficult to deal with and that he would still have the strength to defeat him even though he was injured. However, he didn't expect that Peng Liyun would be so powerful and terrifying that he would put himself in danger at the beginning of the fight. His heart was like an ice mirror, reflecting the details. An idea flashed through his mind. He didn't hurry to perform the force concentration, but instead concentrated the cold wave in his body on his right arm. Bam! His shoulder exploded with strength, and he raised his arm to block the fiery thunderbolt. As soon as Peng Liyun's fist hit Lu Qing's upper arm, he felt Lu Qing sinking down and spitting out coldness. Then his qi, blood, force, and spirit all contracted and gathered in the dantian of his lower abdomen. Even his own majestic strength was absorbed as if he had hit the void. The flames that were supposed to spread inwards were restrained there and extinguished by the ice crystal mist that was released in advance. Lu Qing was imitating in Chaoyang's wisdom. Relying on the ice mirror to accurately grasp the timing of the opponent's move, he blocked the fiery thunderbolt with the force concentration. Of course, the two situations were different. The moves they were facing were different, so the order of the details was also different. And Chaoyang was afraid that his mind would be frozen by severe warning. Hence, he had to retract his spirit at the right time to avoid this. Lu Qing, on the other hand, was worried that the burning sensation would invade his body and cause internal injuries. Hence, he had to spurt out frost in advance to counteract it. At this moment, all the feelings were still in his dantian. The balance was broken and the turbulent waves rushed to his left arm. Lu Qing visualized the thundercloud tremor in time. He shook his shoulder, tightened his muscles, and punched his left fist from top to bottom towards Peng Liyun. The first move of the Thunder Roar Zen. Before Peng Liyun's fiery thunderbolt was completed, he already knew that it was not good. He had already retracted his qi and blood, and followed up with an explosion. He swung his right arm backward and drew an arc upward. Bam! As soon as his arm came into contact with Lu Qing's fist, he felt a force that was much stronger than his own and a shockwave that expanded rapidly. His body jumped involuntarily, and his muscles and tendons were immediately shaken. This was compounded with the internal injuries of the meteor burst. Crack! The force went straight up and down. Peng Liyun's feet sank into the ground, and he couldn't take a step back to dissipate the force. Lu Qing borrowed the strength of his opponent to stop Peng Liyun in one move. He immediately took the time to adjust his muscles and visualized a heavy and scorching red sun. The flames gathered and condensed into a ball that was about to explode. A deity with a human head and a beast body stepped out of the void and suppressed everything. Fire Sect, simplified physical invulnerability, internal explosion. Lu Qing was about to raise his right arm and deliver a critical blow when he felt a sharp pain in the spot where he blocked Peng Liyun's fiery thunderbolt. The pain went straight to his brain. It was indeed too risky to resolve a simplified physical invulnerability with force concentration. Moreover, fiery thunderbolt was known for its explosive force. Although I managed to dissipate and borrow part of the force, the remaining force still hurt my muscles, tendons, and bones, which affected my force. He suddenly realized. He even suspected that his right arm was slightly fractured. Damn it, I can't let go of this opportunity. Lu Qing thought of his brother-in-law's pure smile and sincere request, and Ku's expectation and sadness. He clenched his teeth and endured the pain. He swung his right arm and punched Peng Liyun's lower abdomen. Peng Liyun knew what was going to happen as soon as his feet sank into the blue stone. His eyes were unwavering. He immediately withdrew his force to heal his injury and completed double explosion. Bam. He opened his left hand and pressed down rapidly, half pushing and half pushing. Boom. It was as if there was a ticking time bomb in his body that exploded. It shook his internal organs and churned his qi, blood, and body fluids. The previous injury reappeared and became more serious. Peng Liyun took a deep breath and made the third force concentration in a row. Lu Qing, on the other hand, lost his center of gravity due to the explosion of his Dan force and fell backward. He took 2 steps forward and retracted his qi and blood to stabilize his body. He used the rebound force from the soles of his feet to pounce forward. Bam. He swung his fist fiercely to the side and hit his opponent's temple. Peng Liyun remained calm and unhurried. He followed the momentum of the Dan force and raised his shoulder and arm to block in time. Bam. Lu Qing's joints cracked and his tendons stretched. His 5 fingers shot out and poked at his opponent's head. That wasn't the end of it. Each of his fingers shot out a faint glittering light. It was as beautiful as a dream, like an arrow or a needle. The 21st move of the ice sect, Aurora. Peng Liyun's scalp went numb in an instant. He felt a stinging pain in his temple and quickly moved to the side. He used the tortoise withdraws its head to dodge the deadly Aurora by a hair's breadth. Lu Qing wouldn't let this go. He visualized the giant crimson sun and was about to use his left fist to make another internal explosion. At this moment, a turbine appeared in Peng Liyun's body and spun rapidly. His body was surrounded by faint electric sparks. A strong repulsive force hit him. Lu Qing, who was about to use the simplified physical invulnerability move, was pushed back a meter. Peng Liyun immediately rushed forward. The visualization in his mind kept changing until it was fixed on a green jade talisman suspended in the void. The words on it were complicated and looked like they were made of lightning. Bzzz bzzz bzzz. Yin and yang collided and a silver light flashed. Bam. Peng Liyun raised his arms high and his body expanded. He turned into a deity that punished on behalf of the heavens. He slammed his fist down hard. The simplified physical invulnerability move of the Thunder Sect, Thunder Seal. Lu Qing dispersed his force and quickly used the Dan concentration. He clenched his fist and answered firmly. Bam. His hair stood on end again. There seemed to be smoke coming out of it. His body was completely paralyzed and he couldn't even stand straight. Peng Liyun, on the other hand, was pushed back 2 steps by the explosive force of the Dan stage. These 2 steps gave Lu Qing a chance to catch his breath. He used force concentration to get rid of the influence. Peng Liyun also made a series of explosions. He swung his arms and attacked crazily like lightning. Bam, bam, bam. This was like another version of the machine punch. It was slower and more powerful. It was a perfect combination with the explosive force of the Dan stage. Lu Qing didn't have time to use the force. He could only brace himself and use the ice mirror to block the attacks. Bam, bam, bam. This match. Qin Sanqing finally had the time to comment. It's a little tragic. Yes, it wasn't beautiful, it wasn't wonderful, it was tragic. Lu Qing and Peng Liyun were always able to create opportunities when their opponent was connecting moves. Therefore, the situation of a simplified physical invulnerability against a simplified physical invulnerability had never happened. They were both fighting with the explosive force of the Dan stage. It was quite tragic. This also showed that they were evenly matched and in a stalemate. Maybe this is the only way to defeat the Demon King Peng Liyun. Lu Chang agreed. Bam, 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 bam. After making 9 consecutive explosions, Peng Liyun took the initiative to change. He grasped the pulse of the rhythm and suddenly stopped his attacks. He took a deep breath. Bam, 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 bam. Another turbine was running crazily in his body. A strange suction force appeared under the silvery white electric light. Lu Qing, who was attacking his opponent with Tremor Punch, was caught off guard and fell forward. In terms of fighting skills, Peng Liyun, who had been practicing for many years, was definitely better than him. Opportunity. Peng Liyun didn't use the simplified physical invulnerability. He didn't use the Dan concentration or the simplified physical invulnerability. He straightened his right arm, turned it into a whip, and lashed at his opponent's neck. The fist in front of Lu Cheng's eyes was getting bigger and bigger. It seemed that Lu Cheng only had two choices. He could either give up his stance and roll on the ground to avoid the attack, or he could stabilize his body to avoid the attack. Of course, Peng Liyun's follow-up attack would be a series of attacks. Neither of these options could turn the situation around. Lu Cheng's eyes remained unchanged. He stabilized his center of gravity and moved an inch to the right, giving his shoulder to Peng Liyun. "It's over," Qin Sanqing murmured. Crack. Peng Liyun's whip cracked. However, it wasn't Lu Cheng's bones that were broken. It was a layer of ice crystals that had formed at some point. The 15th move of the ice sect, Ice Armor. This move was the application of supernatural ability. Lu Cheng mastered it very quickly. He had mastered it in a few days in March. Although it couldn't withstand the simplified physical invulnerability and the explosion of the Dan stage, it was still useful for ordinary moves. In a battle between mighty ones, one wrong move would result in a counterattack. Without thinking, Peng Liyun retracted his qi and blood to guard against the killer move. Lu Cheng wouldn't let go of this opportunity. He had been visualizing the giant red sun and fire god Zhurong when he moved his body to the right. At this moment he stretched his body and endured the pain in his right arm. He guided the compressed fireball into his fist and punched it out. The simplified physical invulnerability of the fire sect, internal explosion. The second punch. Boom. Although Peng Liyun punched down in time and forced his enemy to retreat with the explosion of the Dan stage, his body was attacked again. It was as if a sea of fire had ignited inside his body, making him extremely uncomfortable and almost vomiting blood. However, his willpower was just as strong. With a return hug, he barely managed to suppress his wounds and counterattacked with a flash strike. Lu Cheng defended himself with the explosion of the Dan stage and didn't move at all. He planned to use the Thunder Roar Zen to completely destroy his enemy's injury, just like how he dealt with Runli. However, in the previous collisions, Peng Liyun had sensed that Lu Cheng's right arm was injured and his moves were flawed. He adjusted his footwork and kept attacking his right side, forcing Lu Cheng to block with his right fist. The pain in his bones and fascia was getting more and more obvious. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of the Thunder Roar Zen echoed. Peng Liyun kept withdrawing and spurting his Dan force and withstood the attack with 10 consecutive explosions. Lu Cheng's forehead was covered with cold sweat and it was getting more and more difficult for him to lift his right arm. He clenched his teeth and stimulated himself with the pain. In the next round of attacks from his enemy, he suddenly stretched out his right hand and opened his 5 fingers. He didn't block but grabbed in the opposite direction. "It's time." Crack. Lu Cheng heard the sound of bones cracking. He also grabbed Peng Liyun's fist. The veins on the back of his hand and fingers were bulging, as if they were supported by dragons. However, he didn't use his strength. He just directly poured the frost current in his body into Peng Liyun. All of a sudden, Peng Liyun was stiff, but he quickly recovered. He didn't fight back with the supernatural ability of thunder and lightning, but just withdrew his qi and blood. Once the Dan force was formed, it immediately exploded and pushed his body back to avoid the following attacks from Lu Cheng. He wouldn't be able to withstand the third, internal explosion. However, Lu Cheng didn't directly use the simplified physical invulnerability as he expected. Instead, he followed with force concentration to overcome the pain in his injury. His legs thickened and cracked the ground. His body soared into the air and chased after his opponent. Then he quickly raised his hands and made a gesture. He visualized the ancient characters in his mind and said in a low voice, "Army." Peng Liyun, who had just made a counterattack, suddenly froze. His body seemed to have reached its limit and there were knives and swords on his neck. Under normal circumstances, he could control his panic in time and visualize Thunder God to suppress the evil and counterattack. But now, his spirit was shaken and he temporarily lost his composure because of the stacked internal injuries. Now is the time. Lu Cheng was full of fighting spirit. He visualized the heavy red sun again and condensed the violent flames. In the void, Zhu Rong stepped out on the fire dragon and suppressed everything that was about to explode. Bam! Lu Cheng stared at Peng Liyun and his body expanded. He shook his left arm and punched his opponent between the chest and abdomen. The third blow of internal explosion. Peng Liyun barely recovered. He raised his arms in front of his body. Boom! His vision was completely red, which was the result of his capillaries bursting. His mind was buzzing non-stop, and he had lost all sense of his body in the outside world. Lu Cheng took a step forward and endured the pain. He stopped his right fist at Peng Liyun's throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Lu Cheng wins the second round." Lu Cheng won the second round, Hearing this, Lu Qing finally relaxed. He took a deep breath and felt that this was the toughest battle of his life. Peng Liyun calmed down a little. When he was about to speak, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. The great demon king had fallen. Chapter 409. Bam. Bam. Along with Peng Liyun's blood, 4 teeth as white as jade fell to the ground. They rolled a few times to the side, but before they came to a stop, they were lifted up by the big devil's body that had fallen to the ground. All this was like the slow motion at the end of a movie, reflected in Lu Cheng's eyes frame by frame, making him feel like he was in a dream. He had truly defeated the Great Demon King, even if it was an injured Great Demon King. Recalling the whole process, every minute and every second was full of danger. If Lin Ke hadn't injured Peng Liyun, he might have been defeated. At most, he would have caused some trouble for Peng Liyun. As for now, this was the first time Peng Liyun had fallen to the ground since they started fighting in the arena. In the previous 3 or 4 years he had lost a few rounds of tag team battles, but he had always maintained a good image. He had never been so embarrassed before. Phew. Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He was glad that he hadn't been overwhelmed by the tough battle just now, but also excited that he had finally defeated the seemingly invincible Big Devil. Although Peng Liyun had been injured in advance, he had begun to transform. The two cancelled each other out, and Lu Qing had won with a clear conscience. Not to mention, this was the result of his brother-in-law's desperate efforts. At this moment, Lu Qing's emotions were surging. He couldn't wait to roar again to express his joy and excitement, but he didn't do so. Instead, he integrated the venting into his own aura. He turned his body sideways and suddenly looked at the freckled Fang Zhirong in the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club seating area. Fang Zhirong felt that Lu Cheng's eyes were shining brightly, making him feel like he was looking at the scorching sun at noon. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes. At the same time, he heard an illusory whistling sound echoing in his ears, as if a hurricane was about to blow. His body trembling slightly, Fang Zhirong came to a clear realization in an instant. After the battle just now, Lu Cheng's aura was soaring to the sky. If he had consumed too much energy or suffered heavy injuries, then no matter how strong his momentum was, it would only be a decoration and wouldn't affect the overall situation. But now, it was obvious that the outcome had been decided before they reached their limits. With Lu Cheng's abnormal stamina, it wasn't impossible for him to fight another fierce battle. Under such circumstances, momentum was very important. Fang Zhirong took a deep breath to calm his excitement and physical reaction. He suddenly stood up and walked to the stone steps without looking at anyone. This is the first time I've seen Peng Liyun in such a sorry state. The host Lu Chang sighed. That's right. The fight was too intense. The guest commentator, Qin Sanxing, was scribbling on a piece of paper with a pen in his hand. I didn't expect Peng Liyun to be so difficult to deal with when he was injured, nor did I expect Lu Qing to hold on until the dawn appeared. His willpower and timing are indeed extraordinary. Of course, I can also see that compared to Peng Liyun, who has been practicing martial arts for many years, Lu Cheng's foundation is still shallow. This doesn't refer to the martial arts moves he has learned, but to the proper application of them and the change of rhythm in a fierce battle. That's right. Otherwise it wouldn't be so tragic. Lu Chang nodded and smiled. However, Lu Qing is a very talented martial artist. His performance on the spot is always surprising. After going through such a battle of the highest level below the inhuman stage, I believe he will soon be able to solidify his foundation. Hearing this, Qin Sanxing nodded and sighed. That's why Peng Liyun lost so miserably. Lin Ke's determination and courage and Lu Cheng's willpower and strength. The combination of the two will definitely create a miracle. He didn't say it clearly, but his meaning was expressed. Well, Peng Liyun is being helped out of the arena. Sanxing, how badly do you think he is injured? Can you make a simple prediction of the battle between Lu Cheng and Fang Zhirong? Lu Chang asked quickly. Qin Sanxing thought for a while and said, Peng Liyun should have been hit by 3 internal explosions and a dozen tremor punches. His body is also injured by Lin Ke's explosion. If it were before, even if he didn't die, he would have been seriously injured and would have to lie in bed for at least a few months. Of course, if it were before, he wouldn't have been defeated by the 3rd internal explosion, so the battle would have ended long ago and his injuries wouldn't be so serious. But now, he has begun to transform and his body's ability to bear more energy has increased. Lu Qing consumes a lot of energy, but he is known as a freak in this aspect, so he can't be judged by common sense. I think he should still have the strength to fight with a normal 7th pin fighter. The problem is, Chang, have you noticed that Lu Cheng's right arm is obviously injured? and the injury has worsened a lot in the last 2 or 3 blows. It can be considered to be temporarily disabled. At most, he can barely move it. Lu Chang nodded and said, I noticed that Peng Liyun was aiming at this point. Unfortunately, he didn't last long. Lu Qing is holding back one of his arms. So, here comes Fang Zhirong's chance. In the 3rd round, let's split it 6-4. He gets 6 and Lu Qing gets 4. Qin Sanxing couldn't help but add, and if Lu Qing can beat Fang Zhirong, Songqing University will definitely win the championship. As long as he can move in the last round, even if he can't make the explosion of Dan's stage, he can still beat Su Wanyin. No way. Even if Su Wanyin doesn't use the Corvine mouth, he is still a professional 9th pin fighter. Lu Chang retorted in disbelief. Qin Sanxing laughed and said, it depends on who he is fighting. Without the Corvine mouth, Lu Qing can find an opportunity to use the army formula. I don't believe Su Wanyin can be immune to it. The gap between their ranks is too big, Lu Qing has too many tricks up his sleeve, and Su Wanyin's strength is restrained. These are all objective facts. Su Wanyin is doomed to have a hard time facing Lu Qing, unless Lu Qing's right arm is injured again and he can't even make the hand gesture. No, even if that's the case, with his momentum of defeating the Big Devil after 2 consecutive victories, Su Wanyin will be scared to death. So Su Wanyin is really miserable. But if Lu Qing is close to his limit, will his supernatural ability of rebounding curse be weakened? Lu Chang asked doubtfully. The supernatural ability came from the mutation of the root pulp, from the subtle structure of the body, and was closely related to the state of the body. It's possible. But does Su Wanyin dare to take the risk? Qin Sanxing murmured. Hearing the director's prompt, he sat up straight and said, no matter what, as long as Lu Qing can hold on until Su Wanyin comes on the stage, he will have a good chance of winning. To a large extent, the champion of this competition will be decided by the next round. The game is about to start. Let's wait and see. Will Lu Qing continue to work hard and complete the 1-2 victory? Or will Fang Zhirong seize the opportunity of Lu Qing's injury to stabilize the situation and help Shanbei win the championship for the 3rd time in a row? It's really not easy. In Lu Qing's fan forum, Wonton Seller appeared and expressed her feelings. In the previous battle, she had sweated profusely. Her heart had been raised and lowered and raised again. Unparalleled Dragon King replied in a funny way, why else would he be called the Big Devil? I thought Lu Qing would lose just now. Wow, I almost spilled my cup. Brahmin said, it's really not easy for our idol. Defeat the Big Devil and marry the Flying Sky Cup. Don't get too excited. He hasn't won yet. Lu Qing's right arm is useless now. It's still not certain if he can defeat Fang Zhirong. Unparalleled Dragon King poured cold water on them. God is more fond of tragedies. Don't you think it's more impressive that a hot-blooded teenager who fought to his last breath but fell at the last step? I'm more impressed that you became a eunuch. Eternal Nightfall Yen Shaoling said. She was nervous again and felt that she couldn't breathe properly. They had fought so hard to this point. Don't fall at the door of success. The girls forgot to show off on Weibo and started to pray and make wishes silently. Okamoto's fan and others started to flood the forum with the same 2 words. Breakthrough. 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 Holy sh*t, the great demon king was healed to death by you. Such replies appeared under He Xiaowei's Weibo. They lined up neatly. Am I really that strong? He Xiaowei touched his thick beard again and clicked on the section where he changed his nickname. He hesitated and decided not to believe it, so he posted again. I don't believe that Lu Qing can defeat Fang Zhirong with only 1 arm. Shanbei can still win the championship in the end. As soon as this post was refreshed, the replies increased rapidly. Damn, you won't give up until you kill Shanbei. I won't help the old lady, I'll give it to you. Be careful that Shanbei will hire someone to destroy your arm. What kind of deep hatred is this? Tell me, did Lu Qing give you a good time? All-knowing man in ganghood also saw this post and felt like he was hit by a stick. He wished he could become a moderator and ban this toxic healer. When Peng Liyun lost the match, his heart skipped a beat and he almost fell down with him. It was not easy for him to calm down with the excuse of, Lu Qing's arm is injured and Fang Zhirong is in his prime. But now he saw such a thing. When it rains it pours. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, seeing Lu Qing's right arm move slow, Yanjika couldn't hide her heartache and bit her lip. Not only was Lu Qing injured, but he also had to fight again in this injured state. Suddenly she recalled Lu Qing's previous injury. She recalled how he showed off that he could pick up food with his left hand. She recalled his dazed expression when he made a fool of himself. She recalled how she had fed him shyly. She recalled all the bits and pieces related to him. Inexplicably, Yenjika felt sweet. She couldn't help but smile, and her nervousness and uneasiness faded a little. No. I have to be serious and solemn at this time. How can I smile? She quickly put on a serious face, put her hands together and covered her mouth and prayed seriously. At this time Lu Qing also thought of this past. If he wanted to enjoy this kind of sweetness in the next stage of recovery, he couldn't leave with regrets. Well, to reduce the effect of paralysis without the Jindan, I still have the strength of 4 or 5 explosions. With the Jindan I can do 7 or 8 explosions. I'm better than Fang Zhirong in this aspect. Since there's a chance to win, I'll seize it. Lu Qing gathered his thoughts and raised his head to look at Fang Zhirong, who was standing opposite him. He heard the cheers of the audience, which had finally recovered from their shock. At this time the referee raised his right hand. The battle to determine the champion was about to start. The referee waved his arm. Start. Chapter 410. Begin. The old and deep voice echoed in every corner of the martial arts arena. All the spectators stopped cheering and shouting and focused on the arena. The champion of this year's National University Martial Arts Competition would be decided. Bernhard, who was helping Peng Liyun to the emergency room with Mao Qingjun, was stunned for a moment. He couldn't help but look back. At this moment he suddenly heard a sizzling sound. His body was penetrated by a silvery current and his hair stood on end. The feeling of numbness disappeared in a flash. Bernhard turned his head and looked at Peng Liyun innocently. On the other side, Mao Qingjun's muscles were also trembling. Apparently he was also shocked by the current. Peng Liyun coughed and said, "I'm sorry. My emotions are fluctuating." His internal injuries were already serious. Now that his emotions were fluctuating, it was inevitable that his supernatural ability of thunder and lightning would be temporarily out of control. "It's okay. We are also worried about the competition." Mao Qingjun understood Peng Liyun's feelings when he heard the word begin. Bernhard listened to their conversation, but there was only one thought echoing in his mind. "I'm really struck by lightning. Begin." Before the referee's voice died away, Lu Qing had already raised his hands and made a gesture in front of his lower abdomen. Then he outlined the ancient words in his mind. His abdomen wriggled and he opened his throat and said in a low voice, "Okay." The black-edged white figure flashed and broke through the airflow barrier with a bang. He pounced on Fang Zhirong in a teleportation posture. Fang Zhirong had expected this. He knew that Lu Qing, with his overwhelming momentum, would attack first at the start of the match to take advantage of his advantage and suppress his spirit. Therefore he arched his back and bent down. Like a wolf or a snake, he moved to the side in time to avoid the attack and started a guerrilla fight. His body movements were unpredictable. His bent body covered the light and created a black shadow on the ground. The shadow twisted and wriggled with his strange movements. It was normal, but it made the onlooker's scalp tingle. The dark sex kung fu was naturally frightening. Lu Qing transformed into the north wind and chased after him. His footwork had the characteristics of both speed and agility. Little by little he shortened the distance between them. Because he improved too quickly, he needed to master too many new things. His footwork was only at the initial level, not to mention Ren Li's level. Not enough time to settle down. A few minutes later, Fang Zhirong, who felt that Lu Qing was already exhausted, suddenly turned around and launched a counterattack, attacking the right side of Lu Qing's arm where his arm was injured. He tightened his thighs and lifted his knee. His right foot was not high from the ground, so he directly stepped on Lu Qing's foot. At the same time, his shoulder exploded with strength. His left arm shook out and his fist rushed up. Along with the momentum of the stomp, he smashed his opponent's right arm. Stomp on the ground and beat on the top. Stab in the back. Fang Zhirong was taking advantage of the fact that Lu Qing's right arm was injured and could not move freely. Furthermore, he knew that Lu Qing could form an ice armor for defense, so he was prepared to follow up with a follow-up attack. After breaking the crystal with one punch, he immediately flicked his 5 fingers and secretly attacked Lu Qing's heart. This move was called Green Bamboo Snake's Mouth, Wasp's Tail Needle. However, just as his right foot was about to step out, Lu Qing seemed to have telepathy. He straightened his back and turned to the right, just in time to avoid the stomp and collapse. With the success of the ice mirror, Fang Zhirong's attempt had nowhere to hide within a radius of a few centimeters. Without it, Lu Qing would not have been able to withstand Peng Liyun's chain thunder strikes. Dodging wasn't the end. His hands were already forming a seal, and ancient words had already appeared in his mind. Lu Cheng's previous pounce was a deliberate gesture. He was waiting for Fang Zhirong's counterattack after his momentum was exhausted. He was waiting for the ice mirror to accurately dodge and launch a sound attack in time. Not good. Seeing Lu Cheng's posture, Fang Zhirong's heart skipped a beat. He no longer had time to use the green bamboo snake's mouth, wasp's tail needle transformation and quickly visualized. A dark light flashed in his eyes. The green light was frightening, as though he had transformed into a poisonous king snake with a swollen neck and extended tongue. The dark sect's secret technique of the spirit and aura, nightmare. Army. The mysterious ancient voice reverberated. The murderous aura of a battle-hardened soldier invaded Fang Zhirong's heart, making him tremble. His courage dissipated and his body became sluggish. Lu Cheng's willpower was strong, and he was no stranger to the secret techniques of the dark sect. After a short period of trembling, he calmed down a little and visualized the forwarding formula. He didn't try to completely restore the sound but only used it to suppress it. Seizing the fleeting opportunity, he slid forward and used his left fist as a punch to his chest. The stinging pain jolted Fang Zhirong awake. He didn't have time to think about anything else. He forced himself to perform a force concentration, and with the contraction of his chi, blood, force and spirit, he curled his body into a squatting meatball on the ground, narrowly avoiding Lu Cheng's mountain-splitting hammer. A squat followed by a spring. Fang Zhirong's Dan force erupted and shot out like a cannonball, fiercely crashing into Lu Cheng's waist. However, just as his fist missed, Lu Cheng had already skillfully redirected his chi and blood to his lower abdomen. Bam! His muscles swelled and his right leg tightened into a whip. With a snap, he lashed out at Fang Zhirong's raised arm. Bam! With a muffled sound, Fang Zhirong, who had no place to exert his strength in midair, was sent flying like a football. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and made another burst. He pushed off with his feet and swept across the ground with a crack, chasing after his opponent like a bomber. Fang Zhirong had just steadied himself when he saw his opponent closing in on him. He retracted his chi and blood, the muscles on his left arm swelled, and his fist shot out like lightning. Snow collapsed triple explosion. Fang Zhirong was at a disadvantage everywhere. He felt that his opponent had seen through every move in advance. He didn't dare to be careless and quickly visualized, making the turbines in his body start to spin crazily and pressurize each other. Bam! Every muscle in his body was filled with blood, and his body became taller. His right fist rushed forward with the force of 1,000 kilograms. Magnet sect, rotation of two poles, magnetic rotation. Bam! The air billowed and their fists showed blue and black veins. Their muscles swelled again in an instant. After a moment, Lu Cheng's body trembled as he integrated the 24 blizzard strikes into force concentration. Once again he retracted his chi, blood, spirit and other senses. Faced with such a situation, Fang Zhirong had no choice but to follow suit and make an explosion of Dan force to avoid being swallowed by the brutal blizzard. Bam! Lu Cheng's right leg muscles swelled and his instep tightened. Quadruple explosion. Bam! Fang Zhirong was forced to counterattack with a whip kick. Bam! Lu Cheng's legs made a muffled sound. Relying on his current strength, he stepped on the ground with his toes, turned sideways and made another burst, fiercely crashing into his opponent. His attack was so terrifying that it seemed to be suppressing Fang Zhirong to the point of collapse. Fang Zhirong had to counterattack with double explosion. His body swelled, his feet pushed inward and his body leaned forward. Bam! The sound of the collision was deep and loud. Fang Zhirong swayed back and took a step back. His scalp went numb and he quickly retracted his chi and blood. While stabilizing his body, he kept the possibility of defense. Lu Cheng was like a never-ending blizzard. He retracted his chi and blood and immediately exploded it. With the quintuple explosion, he rushed forward with his right leg and kicked his knee. Bam! Feet to feet, the two pairs of martial arts shoes turned into butterflies, fluttering in the air. At this point, Fang Zhirong knew that he couldn't continue like this. He used poison to train his strength and his physical strength was weaker than his peers. Although he was known as a weak 7th pin fighter, he could only complete quintuple explosion. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, seemed to be able to make 6, 7 or 8 consecutive explosions. If they were to compete, he would be in a hopeless situation. Unknowingly, he was suppressed by Lu Cheng's momentum, and his spirit was affected. Fight! Fang Zhirong gritted his teeth and returned to the tiptoe. He made the first force concentration for the 4th time in a row. Following that, he stretched out his left palm and opened his 5 fingers. The veins on his arm bulged as he grabbed Lu Cheng's right arm. Moreover, each of his fingers glowed with a faint inky light, making people feel dizzy as if they had smelled something fishy. Dark Sect, Dark Poison Force. Normally speaking, the combination of force and dance stage explosion was a big move that could only be completed after reaching the inhuman stage. However, Fang Zhirong's poison was stored in his body in his fingers. As long as he wasn't afraid of the backlash, he could barely use it together with dance stage explosion. At the critical moment, he used a killer move that would kill 1,000 of the enemy but hurt 500 of the self in order to turn the situation around. Bam! Just as Fang Zhirong's left palm struck out, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. The rhythm of Lu Cheng's brutal blizzard had slowed down for a moment. It was because of this delay that Lu Cheng didn't make another consecutive explosion. Instead, he raised his hands again and formed a seal. Through the reaction of the ice mirror, he had predicted where Fang Zhirong's desperate move was going to be. He planned to make a seemingly risky response. Crack. Fang Zhirong was shocked. His fingers had already broken through the layer of ice covering Lu Cheng's right arm. He tore his sleeve and directly injected the dark poison force into Lu Cheng's body. Lu Cheng's body was weak and his mind was exhausted. However, at the same time, he said in a low voice with a solemn expression, "Army." The chi of bloody devilish blood invaded his mind. Fang Zhirong instantly lost his mind and trembled as if he was surrounded. Once the dark poison force entered, Lu Cheng's internal injuries caused by the thunderbolt were triggered. His body and mind were rapidly weakening, and the number of dance stage outbursts was reduced. He forced himself to make one last force concentration. He reduced the influence in all aspects and turned them into Dan force that gushed into his left arm. Bam! In such a short distance, his fist was as fast as lightning. Before Fang Zhirong could recover a little, his fist hovered above his throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Lu Cheng wins the 3rd round." In this round, although Lu Cheng had fought fiercely and was almost at his limit, and the injury on his right arm had worsened, with the help of the ice mirror and the change of rhythm that he had stolen from Peng Liyun, the entire battle was under his control. He didn't give Fang Zhirong any room to perform. His newly learned moves of the Plague Sect, Dark Sect and Magnet Sect were all useless. This was the so-called suppression of a higher realm. His body and mind were at ease and his fighting spirit was soaring. Lu Cheng couldn't hold it in anymore and let out another long roar, as if in response to the previous roar. "Yes, I did it." In the long roar, he turned his head and looked at the seats of the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club. He was looking at Su Wanyan. When Su Wanyan met Lu Cheng's eyes, he inexplicably shivered, just like every time he urinated. Next. Chapter 411. Round 4 Lu Cheng wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. When the referee announced the first word, Li Mao, Sun Jian, and the others rushed to the arena excitedly shouting "Yaya" without any scruples. If Lu Cheng had defeated Peng Liyun or Fang Zhirong in the last round, most of them would not have reacted so quickly. They would not have believed it and would have been too surprised to believe it. However, after going through 2 tough battles and their opponent was Su Wanyan, whose supernatural ability was completely restrained by Lu Cheng, they were already full of expectations. They were waiting for the moment when the referee announced the result. Champion. Champion. In the cheers of the audience, Yan Zhika, who was the strongest among the substitutes, rushed to the arena like a nimble deer and hugged Lu Cheng. At this moment she could no longer suppress her surging emotions. In front of the audience and the fans watching the match, she openly showed her affection. "Who cares? Anyway, my dad knows it." During this process, she was so excited that she forgot herself and carefully avoided touching her boyfriend's injured right arm. Compared to his companions who were mentally prepared, Lu Cheng was more absent-minded. He had reached his limit in all aspects, so he was quite confident that he could defeat Su Wanyan. Although he was confident, he was not certain. The worst-case scenario was to create a sure win condition for Little Fairy to enter the arena. Suddenly winning was like a dream. It wasn't until a soft and hot body with a familiar and charming fragrance fell into his arms that he woke up from his dream. Rolling with joy, he asked the girl with an uncertain tone, "What's wrong with you? Are we the champion?" "Yes." Yan Zhika nodded vigorously, her eyes shining brightly. "We are the champion." Looking at her boyfriend who could not hide his tiredness in ecstasy and smelling the obvious sweat on his body, she did not feel dirty or disgusted. Instead, she thought Cheng was really handsome now. Feeling excited, she opened her pink lips and was about to stand on tiptoe to give Lu Qing a deep kiss in front of the audience. When Lu Qing regained his senses, he felt his emotions explode like a bomb. Unable to restrain himself any longer, he lowered his head, intending to fiercely kiss his little fairy and share his inner feelings with her while helping each other in need. Just as their eyes met and they were about to lose control of their kiss, Kai Zongming and the rest rushed over and surrounded Lu Qing. Some hugged his waist, some lifted his legs, and some grabbed his shoulders. "Champion!" They cheered and threw Lu Qing into the air before catching him firmly. "Champion!" The celebration ceremony was still going on. Yan Zhika took a step back and unconsciously touched her pink lips with her right hand. She was both surprised by her loss of control and regretful that it was interrupted by her teammates. Flying in the air, Lu Qing turned his head and looked at the beautiful Cuckoo. He gave her a happy yet helpless look, expressing his regret. When their eyes met, Yan Zhika giggled like 100 blooming flowers. Then she thought of something and hurriedly and worriedly reminded him, "His hand is injured. Be careful, be careful. Champion! Champion!" In the stands, Yan Kai listened to the enthusiastic shouts and witnessed the excitement of his daughter and the Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. He took a deep breath and gave a neutral comment while recalling Lu Cheng's previous performance. His willpower is good and his strength is strong. Ji Mingyu had sharp ears and eyes. She chuckled and said, "My daughter's taste isn't bad. When they first started dating, I didn't expect Xiao Lu to grow to this level so quickly." "Ah? What did you say? I can't hear you." In the deafening noise, Yan Kai, who was not very strong and had no supernatural ability, turned his head and asked in confusion. Ji Mingyu couldn't help but laugh. She glanced at her dumb husband and didn't want to repeat herself. She grabbed his hand and swung it up, shouting loudly, "Champion! Champion!" In this kind of scene, it would be very incongruous to have a refined appearance. Occasionally indulging like this is good for health. Driven by his wife, Yan Kai gradually blended into the surrounding atmosphere and temporarily gave up his usual elegance. However, there was still something in his heart that worried him. Lu Qing was young and had a promising future. Would he be tempted to indulge in debauchery and indulge in debauchery? There were too many similar examples to mention. As a father, he would worry if his daughter's boyfriend was not good enough. He would also worry if her boyfriend was good enough. He couldn't stop worrying. The fourth round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the emergency room, Lin Ke, who was tied with many instruments, suddenly exhaled when he heard the doctor's report. His tight body relaxed and his tightly clenched fists stretched out. He closed his eyes and a manly middle-aged man seemed to appear in front of him. "Dad, I did it. I got the Feiqian Cup," Lin Ke said to himself silently. The middle-aged man smiled faintly, his expression filled with relief. In the room next door, Bernhard and Mao Qingjun clenched their fists tightly, pain written all over their faces. They lost the championship that they were sure to win. Peng Liyun was lying on the bed. He didn't wonder or think. His expression was rarely sad and had a strong sense of loss. Since he started practicing martial arts, he had never encountered such a setback. "I said I wouldn't take part in the university tournament next year." He smiled self-deprecatingly. At this time, Fang Zhirong had already returned to the locker room and buried his face in a white towel. Su Wanyin was supported by the staff. He endured the pain in his hip and slowly walked out of the arena. He didn't expect to end the match so beautifully in such a posture. The fourth round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the live broadcast room, the host Lu Chang reacted quickly and said with a smile, "Congratulations to Songqing University. Congratulations to Lu Qing and Lin Quebec. Congratulations to every member of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club for winning the championship of this year's National University Martial Arts Competition. Congratulations to them for winning the first national championship in the history of Songqing University." He finished in one breath and felt a little excited. Chen Sanxing was full of emotions as he continued the conversation. "I believe everyone can see that Shanbei is indeed stronger than Songqing University. However, Lin Ke's courage to sacrifice himself and his determination to fight for his life helped to bridge the gap between them. Lu Cheng's will to withstand the pressure and his performance as the heavenly son of the age brought them the final victory. What I want to say is that the strongest team lost, but the best team won. Congratulations to Songqing University Martial Arts Club. You are the best." After shouting these words excitedly, he took a breath and said with a smile, Now I'm looking forward to seeing how my old friend will fulfill his promise. Looking at the chaotic replies on the Weibo interface, He Xiaowei was stunned for a full minute. Then he clicked on the nickname change section with a heavy arm. After some preparation, he closed his eyes and blindly typed in a new nickname, Poison Milk Hierarch. Phew. As soon as he finished, he leaned back and closed his eyes sadly. He felt that his superstitious self had died. Crack. When the referee announced the result, all-knowing man in ganghood angrily slammed the table and smashed his hard-earned treasure into pieces. He felt a sharp pain in his wrist as if there was a wound. After calming down, he suddenly realized that the bet of delete your account if Lu Qing reaches the inhuman stage was not very safe. The fourth round, Lu Qing wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. In the dormitory of the School of Arts of Songqing University, Yan Xiaoling thought that she would be so excited that she would post, drive, and celebrate. However, when she saw the result, she burst into tears. Her eyes were red and her vision was blurred. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for Lu Qing and Lin Ke. After so many setbacks and so much effort, they finally won the championship. With tears in her eyes, she refreshed the forum and saw that it was full of champion posts. She cried even harder. It's not easy for everyone. Yan Xiaoling subconsciously turned around and looked at Mu Jinyan. She was also crying. Her eyes were red and her face was smeared with tears. You are crying too. Yan Xiaoling said in a choked voice. Isn't it a little inappropriate to use, what a coincidence at this time? Oh, I'm happy and worried at the same time. Mu Jinyan said while sobbing, Lingling, the effect of your wish is so good, that's. Yan Xiaoling was a little proud in her teary eyes. Mu Jinyan wiped her tears and said seriously, in order to not cause any backlash to them from tomorrow onwards, I will supervise you to get up early. Ah. Yan Xiaoling's mouth opened into an O shape. She was dumbfounded. After the joyous celebration, the staff began to clean up the arena and rearrange the mats. In the process there were singers and dancers. After waiting for 20 minutes, everything was ready. The president of the National University Martial Arts Federation, Mr. Fang Jinyu, stepped into the arena with several guests. He first awarded the silver medal to the depressed Shanbei University students. Next, let's welcome the champion of this year's National University Martial Arts Competition, Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The host invited loudly. Woo woo woo. Wave after wave of trumpet sounds, led by Geezer Shi, Lu Qing, and the others walked up one by one. They saw the gold medals being held by the hostess and the fighter's flying trophy being placed on the table in front of them. All of a sudden, Lu Qing's emotions surged again. He turned his head to look at Yan Zhika beside him with tears in his eyes. Her eyes were misty and drops of crystal tears slowly slid down her white cheeks. She was so beautiful. Didn't you say you never cry? Lu Qing tried to calm down and joked with Yan Zhika. Yan Zhika sniffled and glared at him. She answered with a little sob, I said I never cry when I'm sad or sad. Now I'm so happy and moved. At this time, Li Mao and Kai Zongming helped Lin Ke out of the emergency room. He strongly requested to participate in the award ceremony after his injury was stabilized. Lu Qing squeezed a step to Yan Zhika's side, leaving the seat on the right side for his brother-in-law. Before they could say anything, Fang Jinyu approached them and gave them the gold medals one by one. How much wine can this thing exchange for? Geezer Shi murmured. Fang Jinyu, who pretended not to know him, almost sprained his waist. After coughing twice, Fang Jinyu hung the gold medal around Lin Ke's neck and praised him with a smile. You have perseverance, courage, and action. That's all a martial artist can do. Lin Ke nodded slightly in response. He looked as calm as usual, but his eyes were not calm at all. Young talent, worthy of the title of Heavenly Son. Fang Jinyu moved closer to him and praised him. She then put the gold medal on him. I've just started, Lu Qing replied, half self-deprecating and half humorously. After the medals were handed out, Fang Jinyu picked up the Feitian Cup, which symbolized the highest honor, and was about to hand it to Coach Shi Jianghu. Geezer Shi waved his hand and pointed at Lu Qing. Give it to the brat. Give it to Lin Ke, Lu Qing interrupted. Fang Jinyu didn't ask why. She solemnly handed the Feitian Cup to Lin Quebec. Lin Ke took it with both hands. Feeling the heavy weight, his vision suddenly blurred. He didn't recall the past. Instead, he suddenly raised the trophy high. The trophy for the champion of the National University Martial Arts Competition. Champion! The audience shouted, and so did Lu Qing and the rest. Bang! 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 The gun salute exploded. Countless white and black fragments fell down, forming a glorious background for Lin Ke, Lu Cheng Yanjika and the rest. Champion. Chapter 412. Champion. In the beautifully decorated barbecue bar, Lu Cheng and the others raised their glasses and toasted each other. Once again they celebrated the national championship, which was not easy to win. After the award ceremony, they first accepted an interview and took a group photo. Then they each carried the trophy around the field and returned to the locker room under the enthusiastic cheers of the audience. After showering, they got on the bus and returned to the hotel to put down their belongings. Then they gathered again and came here for a team celebration. Of course, Lin Ke was an exception. Seeing that everyone was so happy, Geezer sure relaxed the rules and allowed them to drink to liven things up. Those who wanted to drink could drink, and those who didn't, he didn't force them. The only requirement was that they couldn't get drunk. Lu Cheng and Yanjika had their own principles, so they didn't make an exception. They held soda water and sour plum soup to their senior brothers and sisters. After another round of toasting, Sun Jian, who drank until his face was full of alcohol, picked up the beer bottle and poured a full glass. Then he pulled Lin Hua up, looked at the crowd and said humorously, "I'm just a salted fish who only knows how to shout 666. Let me toast to you all." Lu Cheng, Kai Zongming and the others burst into laughter and said, "You can toast to us all. Why do you need senior sister Lin to toast to us?" Sun Jian smiled, then sighed and said, "That's right. When we go back to Songqing, Hua Hua and I probably won't come to the martial arts club again. Let's take this opportunity to say goodbye to you all." He and Lin Hua were going to work in Huahai, so some things had to be finalized in advance. The thesis defense also had to be put on the agenda. There were too many things to be done. Lu Cheng and the others had long known and foreseen this, so they were mentally prepared. However, when they heard it from Sun Jian, they still felt sad. They had been together for almost 2 years, sweating and suffering together every day during the special training. How could there be no friendship? However, all good things must come to an end. Before Kai Zongming and the others could say anything, Sun Jian said emotionally, "Although I wasn't like Hua Hua and didn't get a chance to compete in the nationals this time, I still have a deep impression of them. I don't think I'm not a part of this team." Speaking of this, he laughed. "When I first joined the martial arts club, I only wanted to practice martial arts and fight in competitions to vent my pent-up emotions. I didn't even think about the regional or national competitions. When I met senior brother Chen and the others, forget it, I won't say anything bad about them. In short, during those 2 years I didn't feel like a member of the martial arts club. When I was free, I used the venue and strength training room. When I was not free, I ignored everyone. Over the past 2 years, I've been training and working hard with everyone for the national competition. I truly feel that I'm a member of the martial arts club. I feel sad when I lose, but I feel happy when I win. In my father's words, I feel a sense of collective honor." Lu Cheng and Yanjika listened to him quietly. At the end of his speech, Sun Jian gulped down the beer in his glass and said emotionally, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what to say. This toast is from the 10,000-year substitute Sun Jian to everyone." Lu Cheng and the others picked up their glasses, drank the contents in one gulp and answered in unison, "To senior brother Sun." Sun Jian filled a small glass of white wine for himself, held Lin Hua's hand and said, "I once read a book. It said that most of a person's life is ordinary and there is nothing to write home about. It is a cycle that goes on day after day. Only occasionally can one jump out and find the light, leaving a different color in one's life. My future may be as ordinary as this, but I can proudly say that when I was at the peak of my life, Hua Hua, all of you and I fought for our dreams together. We tasted the pain of failure and the joy of success together. We created miracles together. Burning the youth and leaving traces. That's great, that's great." He and Lin Hua raised their glasses together and said in a happy and sad voice, "Remember to contact us when you come to Huahai in the future. Goodbye. We really have to see each other again." As he spoke, he actually cried and drank up the liquid in his glass. Lin Hua held back his tears, raised his head and drank his own glass. Li Xiaowen and the others had tears in their eyes and raised their glasses, saying that they would definitely see each other again. Lu Cheng and Yanjika also had tears in their eyes and mixed feelings. They also clinked their glasses and drank up. Laughing and crying, happy and sad, excited and sad, Songqing University Martial Arts Club celebration came to an end. Sun Jian violated Geezer Shi's ban and drank until he was dead drunk. He kept repeating, "Goodbye, we have to see each other again." However, no one blamed him or scolded him. Standing outside the restaurant, the night wind blew. Everyone felt cool and refreshed. Burp, I won't go back to the hotel with you. I have to walk the road with my Fangyuan. Kai Zhongming, who had always been a good drinker, pointed at the girl on the other side of the road and said, Go ahead. Let's see how you'll play in the next 2 days. Lu Qing joked. At that time he would be a foreign dog again. After watching little Ming's back safely cross the crosswalk, Geezer sure coughed and said, I've been so busy with the nationals that I haven't seen many of my old friends in the capital. You guys can go back by yourselves. I still have something to do. Yes, master. Lu Qing, Yanzhika, and the others waved their hands. After Shi Jianghu left, Li Xiaowen and He Zi became more active. They smiled at Lu Qing, Yanzhika, Sun Jian, and Lin Hua, saying, We're going shopping and drinking. We won't disturb you guys. Take care of yourself, Lu Qing reminded. Don't worry, we have bodyguards. Li Xiaowen smiled and pointed at Li Mao. Laughing and joking, they crossed the street and left. At this time, Lin Hua stopped the taxi and pointed at Sun Jian. He said to Lu Qing and Yanzhika, He's so drunk that I have to send him back first. Do you want to come with me? The hotel is not far. We're going to walk back. Lu Qing smiled and helped Lin Hua put Sun Jian into the car. Bye-bye. Lin Hua sat in the car and waved to them through the window. Bye-bye. Lu Qing and Yanzhika responded with a smile. The car started and drove away. They suddenly found that they were alone in the cool night wind. The previous bustle and noise had returned to silence. After a short period of adaptation, Lu Qing smiled and covered his chest with his left hand. He bowed like a gentleman and said, Beautiful lady, no, beautiful fairy, may I invite you to take a walk with me? His right arm was wrapped in layers of bandages and splinted, so he could only wave it forward clumsily. According to the doctor, with his body's recovery ability, he wouldn't need to go through so much trouble in a few days. He would be as good as new in about 3 weeks. Of course, the premise was that he didn't get hurt again. Yanzhika chuckled and said, You disabled person, don't be so fond of acting. Although she said so, she still gave her right hand to Lu Qing and let him hold it. Bathed in the neon light, the two strolled leisurely on the street, enjoying the faint aftertaste of joy. Hey, when senior brother Sun Jian and senior sister Lin Hua just said goodbye, I was a little sad. Yanzhika suddenly sighed while chatting. Lu Qing felt the same way. He nodded and joked, Kochian, I remember you once taught me that there are 2 kinds of friends. The first kind is those who only know each other for a short time and will eventually drift apart. There's no need to be sad about it. Yanzhika put on an evil smile and rolled her eyes at him, while gnashing her teeth. I know that. But emotions can't be gone just like that. Lu Qing was glanced at by her lively eyes and suddenly felt some ripples in his heart. After looking around, he pointed to a quiet alley with his chin and said, Let's go there. Yanzhika blinked with a blank face. We can take a shortcut there. Lu Qing answered without changing his expression and pulled the girl to go there. Yanzhika's face was full of confusion. Seeing that her boyfriend was so insistent, she no longer doubted him. Her steps became heavy and light. Every time she stepped on the floor tiles, she swayed and her skirt fluttered. Lu Qing looked at her greedily. When they walked a few steps into the alley, he suddenly pulled the girl into his arms. Yanzhika looked up in confusion and was about to say something, but Lu Qing covered her mouth with his passionately. After a few moans, her body softened. She grabbed Lu Qing's clothes with both hands and took the initiative to stick out her tongue, letting her boyfriend suck her sweetness. Lu Qing kissed and hugged her tighter. He breathed in the girl's warm breath and felt the beauty of her delicate body. After a while, they finally separated and panted slightly. Yanzhika glared at Lu Qing with bright and watery eyes. She said with annoyance and amusement, Why are you so excited? We're going back to the hotel soon. Lu Qing laughed and said, I thought about it. Your parents will definitely come to talk to you tonight. When we go back to the hotel, we'll have to part for a while. So let's kiss first. Oh, you've learned to answer first. Yanzhika thought about it and found it reasonable. It's all because of Ko Qian's good teaching. Lu Qing lowered his head and pressed his forehead against his little fairy's forehead. He murmured his inner feelings that he didn't have time to say, So good. We're the champions. We're the champions with you. Such a posture and such words softened Yanzhika's heart. She raised her head, opened her pink lips slightly, and looked at her boyfriend with sparkling eyes. She looked like she was waiting for a kiss. Lu Qing naturally did as she wished. The two of them were entangled and dilly-dallying. They walked for half an hour and finally saw the entrance of the hotel. When they saw Ji Mingyu and Yan Kai, a car stopped beside them. The car door opened. Lin K, who had changed into a t-shirt and casual pants, got out of the car with difficulty and stood in front of them. "Brother." Yenjika called out subconsciously. Lin K nodded slightly. He looked at them and said in a low voice, "I might not go back to Songqing University." Ah. Lu Qing was stunned. Yenjika seemed to have expected it. Lu Qing knew that Lin K came to Songqing University to make up for his father's regret. He didn't like Peng Liyun, who really liked to study, nor did he like Renli, who didn't want to be an illiterate person. The usual courses and the final degree were almost meaningless to him. Once his wish was fulfilled, there would be nothing holding him back. However, Lu Qing didn't expect Lin K's farewell to come so quickly and so unexpectedly. Lin K still looked cold, but he was a little more talkative than before. He said calmly, "I've heard a song before and remembered the lyrics. It's called, 'The good days of youth and frivolity are over when you grow up.'" After pausing for a moment, he revealed an extremely faint smile. Using his usual indifferent tone, he said, "That's right. I've been frivolous. It's time for me to grow up." After saying that, he turned around, opened the car door and sat in again, leaving only a lonely figure for Lu Qing and Yenjika. The car drove away. Lin K didn't turn his head. He just raised his hand and waved casually. The car and him went further and further away until they were out of sight. The bustle was gone. It was deserted. Lu Qing closed his eyes. Lin K's words seemed to be echoing in his ears. "I've been frivolous. It's time for me to grow up." Chapter 413. Lu Qing and Yenjika were silent for a while. They walked side by side to the entrance of the hotel. "My brother must have been scolded by Grandpa for awakening his supernatural ability," Yenjika said faintly as they walked. Lu Qing sighed. "He did pay a lot. Anyway, he won the championship and his wish was fulfilled. There's no need to argue with your grandpa anymore." As someone who had fully experienced high school, he actually did not lack the experience of parting and sadness. However, at that time his mentality and worldview were far from mature enough. He was full of longing for the future and felt that meeting again was something that could happen often. His feelings for such things were more muddle-headed and not deep enough. But now, the more he understood, the more he knew, the more he cherished the days when everyone fought together, suffered together, and broke through together. He understood that there might not be a future for some people and some things once it was over. Therefore he couldn't help but feel sad. Luckily, Lin K was my brother-in-law. In the future he would also enter the pro scene, so they would see each other many times. It was just that it would be difficult for them to work together for the same goal like they had in the past 2 years. Yeah, but it's still so sad. Yenjika pouted and looked wronged. Lu Qing was about to say something when he saw his father-in-law and mother-in-law coming out of the revolving door. He straightened his back and cleared his throat in a low voice. But he didn't let go of the girl's hand as if he was saying something. "Dad, Mom?" Yenjika called twice, her cheeks turning red, but she didn't retract her right hand. "Uncle Yen, Auntie G." Lu Qing followed suit and didn't feel at a loss. Yen Kai looked at their clasped hands and nodded slightly in response to Lu Qing's greeting. "Okay." He opened and closed his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but didn't in the end. Ji Mingyu laughed and said, "Lu, how's your injury? Are you okay? You did a good job in the competition tonight. You surprised everyone again." "Auntie, you flatter me. It's not a big deal. I'll be fine in a few weeks." Lu Qing didn't show his eloquence or humor, but answered honestly. "Good. Take care of yourself. Cuz sleep with me tonight. We can have a good chat. Let your father sleep on the sofa outside." Ji Mingyu looked at her daughter with a smile. "Okay." Yenjika nodded slightly and turned to look at Lu Qing. "I'm going to my parents' place first." She paused, pursed her lips, tilted her head slightly and smiled. "See you tomorrow, see you tomorrow." He waved to Yen Kai and Ji Mingyu and said, "Uncle, Auntie, goodbye. See you tomorrow." Ji Mingyu chuckled and repeated her daughter's words. Yen Kai nodded elegantly. Watching the family of 3 leave, Lu Qing sighed to himself. The atmosphere between his parents-in-law was indeed awkward and subtle. Even he, who had seen such a big scene before, was quite reserved. He wondered if someone as strong as Talker would still be able to act freely in front of his parents-in-law. While letting his mind wander, Lu Qing returned to his room and turned on the lights. On the right was a big bed that he hadn't slept on for many days. On the left were items that were strewn everywhere. Lu Qing suddenly felt like he had returned to a lonely home after a business trip for several months. The room was bright and full of loneliness and strangeness. This is the night after winning the championship? I'm the only one left? Lu Qing sighed. Without changing his shoes, he walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, the skyscrapers were towering, lights were everywhere, and the Milky Way was everywhere. It was both prosperous and lonely. After staring blankly for a while, Lu Qing suddenly felt his phone vibrate. He quickly took it out and saw Yanjika's message. I'm chatting with my parents. They have a good impression of you. Yanjika smiled shyly. Lu Qing's lips suddenly curled up. The sadness he felt just now disappeared without a trace. He replied with a smirk. So, we can get married now? You wish. The revolution hasn't succeeded yet. Comrade, you still need to work hard. Yanjika said. Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh. He raised his hand to look at the love ring and then looked outside again. This time, he only felt that the lights in the night revealed a faint but lasting warmth, illuminating the way home for the late traveler. The next day, Lu Qing, who had won the nationals, woke up early as usual. He didn't relax or slack off. His arm was injured, so it was difficult for him to practice many of his moves. He could only focus on internal training, footwork, and leg work. In the morning light, he turned and created wind, whistling as he wished. At 7:40 a.m., Lu Qing finished his usual training and returned to the hotel. He washed his body with difficulty. At this time, he who was completely free, suddenly had some thoughts. He felt that the experience of winning the nationals last night was still so unreal and so dreamy. If the gold medal wasn't right beside him, he probably wouldn't have believed it. It hasn't even been a day and I'm already thinking about it. Lu Qing shook his head and laughed. Following the throbbing in his heart, he took the card, left the room, and prepared to take a taxi to the martial arts arena in the capital. Nothing happened along the way. The skyscrapers on both sides of the road were similar in every city. Lu Qing was in a leisurely mood. He looked around with interest and occasionally chatted with Yanjika. Unknowingly, he arrived at his destination. He put on a pair of plain glasses, put his hands in his pockets, and strolled to the entrance of the martial arts arena. In the surrounding square, the crowd that had entered and left last night had long disappeared. Even the ground was clean, leaving no trace of the previous battle. Passing by several men and women who came to open the door, Lu Qing's mood became extremely good. Even the outline of the tiles under his feet was pleasing to the eye. The entrance of the arena had been reopened. It was empty and sparsely populated. On both sides of the wall, there were posters of his confrontation with Peng Liyun. Smiling, Lu Qing put his hands in his pockets and walked step by step to the arena. He found a place to sit down and softly looked at the place where the battle took place last night. He looked at the two children who were fighting with their fists and feet. Their moves were normal, but their bodies had yet to develop and their strength was insufficient. Their footsteps were light, and they did not have any substantial power. Moreover, they had learned from the movies and television shows. Every move they made required a shout, and the fight was lively and lively. Hey, be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Several parents kept reminding him by the side until he was driven to the stands by the coach. Noticing that Lu Qing was looking at the arena with a smile, an extroverted parent laughed and said, "Children insist on learning martial arts. We have no choice but to accompany them while we are free." Lu Qing thought for a while and said with a smile, "Practicing martial arts is a good thing." As he said, he stood up and added, "Moderate training is good for development. If not, it will hinder development." The parents looked at each other in confusion. Lu Qing did not say anything. He put his hands in his pockets and walked to the door. When he was about to go out, he looked back and looked at the familiar yet strange arena. Vaguely, from the perspective of a bystander, he seemed to see Lin Ke lifting the trophy, himself shouting to the sky, and Yanjika running to the arena. The corners of his mouth curled up as he turned around and left the place. Outside the arena, Lu Qing took out his phone, took a picture of the entrance and sent it to Yanjika. "Ah, martial arts arena." Yanjika was surprised at first, and then she said angrily, "Why didn't you take me? Let's go together next time." Lu Qing said with a silly smile, "I just had a sudden impulse." Yanjika giggled with a hand over her mouth emoji. "My silly Qing actually has such a rough side." After that, she added, "Empress Dowager asked you to come for lunch. The address is..." Lu Qing's leisurely mood faded away. He asked, "Do you want to buy cigarettes, alcohol, and fruits? I think I should bring these things for my first visit." "No need." Yanjika said with a confused expression, "It's not a formal visit. We're just having lunch together. Besides, we're still students." But it's the first time I'm meeting your parents. I have to show my respect to them. Lu Qing said with an emoji touching his chin. No one will blame you for being polite. I don't have experience. I'll ask Empress Dowager. Yan Zhika hesitated for a while and decided to ask for help. Lu Qing said with a smile, Empress Dowager probably doesn't know. Your dad only visited you for the first time a few years after you were born. It's okay. The focus is on my parents. If they think it's okay, then it's okay. Yan Zhika paused for a while and said, Empress Dowager said you don't need to bring anything. She wants you to relax and not be too cautious. Okay. I'll come over shamelessly? Lu Qing asked. Yan Zhika said with an emoji of rolling eyes, don't rush. Go back and change your clothes first. Wear that dark-colored shirt. And, looking at her nagging, Lu Qing suddenly laughed and said, Ku, are you a little nervous? I'm just worried that you don't know what to do. Yan Zhika said with a roll of the eyes emoji. Hee hee. Lu Qing didn't expose her and replied, I'll listen to Ko Qian's instructions. Because she cared about herself and their future, Ku was nervous and uneasy. Yeah, me too. Back at the hotel, he took out his clothes and put them on according to Yan Zhika's instructions. Then he called a taxi and was ready to go. When he got to the lobby, he saw Li Mao, Li Xiaowen, and the others who were happily going out to play. He could feel their happy mood. Waving goodbye, Lu Qing stood at the door and waited for the taxi. The sun was shining brightly. Chapter 4:14. The place for dinner was a courtyard without any sign. When Lu Qing walked to the door, Yan Zhika, in a white knee-length dress, was already waiting outside. Her beautiful black hair was blown by the wind through the alley, gently dancing in the wind. It was as beautiful as a picture scroll. Seeing her boyfriend, her eyes lit up. She stepped forward and helped Lu Qing to tidy up the collar and wrinkles of his shirt. She smiled and said, Don't be nervous. Just eat and talk. I wasn't nervous before. Now that you mention it, I feel a little nervous. Lu Qing deliberately made a joke. Yan Zhika's beautiful eyes sparkled. She glanced at him, took his uninjured hand and turned towards the yard. Let's go. Passing through the mottled gate, the vines on the flower rack and the clear little pond, Lu Qing and Yan Zhika entered the row of houses on the east side, into the quiet and secluded warm pavilion, surrounded by the faint fragrance of flowers. A quaint square table was placed by the window. Outside, flowers were blooming, leaves were lush and waves were gently swaying. Lu Qing didn't have time to look at the calligraphy and paintings hanging on the wall or the objects in the treasure pavilion. He cast his eyes on the square table and his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Hello, uncle and auntie. Sit down. Ji Mingyu smiled and pointed to the seat opposite Yan Kai. Okay. Lu Qing sat down with Yan Zhika. Just as the awkward and subtle atmosphere was brewing, Ji Mingyu said with a smile, in terms of the local cuisine of the capital, this one ranks in the top 5 in my mind. And the environment is more suitable. I prefer Xiaoshan food now. You should be able to get used to it. Actually, I'm not a picky eater. The ingredients are not exotic and the taste is not bad. I don't have a problem. Lu Qing responded with a smile. Ji Mingyu nodded. It's not a big deal to use the best ingredients to make delicious food. But it's a real skill to use ordinary ingredients to make ordinary dishes that people can't stop praising. The combination of the two, the best ingredients and the real skill, makes delicious food. Like this one? Yan Zhika asked deliberately to liven up the atmosphere. With the domineering Empress Dowager taking the initiative to lead the conversation, the awkward atmosphere faded away. Lu Qing felt more at ease and answered all the questions in a well-behaved manner. Yan Kai didn't talk to him much. He just echoed Ji Mingyu's words from time to time, or glanced at Yan Zhika who kept putting food into her semi-disabled boyfriend's bowl. His heart ached for his daughter's thoughtfulness. Who had really grown up. Dishes were put on the table and taken away one by one. Lu Qing, who already had an inhuman appetite, was too embarrassed to show his true colors. He mainly chatted and ate as a supplement. Well, the dishes are really good but the portion is not enough. Fortunately, the Empress Dowager ordered more than 10 portions. She is indeed a martial arts aristocratic family. She even paid attention to these details. He thought silently. At the end of the conversation, Yan Kai glanced at him, took a sip of tea, and took the initiative to ask for the first time. Lu, what are your plans for the future? Arrangements? Lu Qing was stunned for a moment. Just as he was about to organize his words, Yan Kai added, your master has a close relationship with the military, so there must be some disputes in this regard. Do you want to take this path or play professional matches? Uncle Yin, I'm actually very afraid of death. Lu Qing thought about it and said self-deprecatingly, if it's not necessary, I really don't want to risk my life. Playing professional matches suits me better. Yin Kai nodded slightly. Do you have any goals? To become a physical invulnerability expert? Yes, Lu Qing answered honestly. First, all the martial artists I'm familiar with are all physical invulnerability experts. I hope to have the strength to challenge them and compete with them. Second, he paused and continued, second because Ku's grandparents are both physical invulnerability experts. Yenjika's eyes curved into a smile and she bit her lip. She wanted to say something coquettishly, but because her parents were present, she forced herself to hold it in. Yen Kai seemed to be reminded of the past. He was suddenly touched. After a moment of silence he said, not bad. Work hard. Although I consider myself successful in my career and have good self-control, every time I meet my parents-in-law who are physical invulnerability experts, I still have mixed feelings. Besides, most of Mingyu's business depends on the Ji family and the two physical invulnerability experts. Yen Kai didn't say anything more. Ji Mingyu changed the topic and made the atmosphere more natural again. In the end, she smiled at Lu Cheng and said, Lu, are you going back to Songqing tomorrow morning? Yes, the flight is after 10. Lu Cheng answered honestly. Ji Mingyu turned to Yenjika. Could come with us today. When we reach the capital we have to visit some elders. Okay. Yenjika agreed in a crisp voice. After saying goodbye, she walked Lu Cheng to the door of the courtyard. That's it? Lu Cheng looked back and asked blankly. This was completely different from what he imagined meeting his parents-in-law. That's right. What else do you want to do? Yenjika blinked her eyes and asked him in amusement. Shouldn't you ask me about the details? Like my surname, my name, where I'm from, where I'm going, how many people are in my family, how many acres of land each person has, how many cows are in the fields. Lu Cheng answered in a joking tone. According to other people's experience, such meetings were always followed by interrogation. Yenjika laughed. It's not like they don't have the means to find out your details. Even if they don't, they should ask me in private first. Who would ask you directly? That's so rude and embarrassing. Okay. Lu Cheng was relieved. Yenjika pursed her lips. Suddenly, she turned her head to the side and added, Empress Dowager is very satisfied with you now. She thinks you're talented and reliable. When it comes to being able to do what she says, she supports you. My dad can only accept it. Lu Cheng was delighted. He deliberately exaggerated. This is called the more a mother-in-law looks at her son-in-law, the more satisfied she is? In your dreams. Yenjika turned back and rolled her eyes at him, but her eyes were full of unconcealable joy. They chatted for a while before going back. Lu Cheng had nothing to do in the afternoon, so he relaxed. However, he didn't have a gathering with his high school classmates in the capital. He just chatted with them on QQ for half a day. At night, Chi Fong called him at around 10 o'clock as per her daily habit. She wanted to share with him how many congratulations she had received today. The next day Lu Cheng didn't relax. He still went to the nearby park to practice. When he was about to finish, he suddenly found his master standing beside him with a wine pot. Lin Kei was caught back to Shushan's study. He probably won't come back. What's your plan? Geezer sure raised his chin. Without waiting for Lu Cheng's reply, he continued, I've helped your principal win the championship and I've rested enough. You can barely finish your apprenticeship, so it's time to leave. Brat, do you want to enter the professional competition in advance, or what? Master is leaving too. Lu Cheng was in a trance, but the idea in his heart became clearer and firmer. He thought for a while and said, Master, I've improved to my current level in 1.5 years. I'm leaving too quickly. This national competition has exposed many problems. I want to settle down for a year, and enter the professional competition when I've reached the inhuman stage. Well, this may be better. Also, Lin Kei is gone. You're gone too. If I leave too, won't the martial arts club return to its previous state? Yes, it's stronger than before, but everyone hasn't had time to grow up. It's likely that they won't be able to enter the division next semester. This will be a big blow to them. Besides, the students of Songqing University have finally supported us again. They must be very disappointed and sad if we suddenly return to the starting point. I think I want to stay for another year and lead the others. I'll leave when they grow up and have new blood. By that time I'll be in my senior year and won't have many classes. Even if I leave early I can still get a diploma. Geezer sure smiled, drank a mouthful of wine and said, I knew it. You little brat, just lift your butt a little. I know what shit you want is shit. Suddenly erupting with superpowers is something that Lin K can do, and you will definitely choose to stay for another year. However, when the time comes, this old man has some things for you to do. What things? Lu Qing asked in surprise. Things related to the 9 words formula and Emperor Yen Force. I'll pick some simple things for you to do by yourself. You'll gain something and also train yourself. We'll talk about it when the time comes, Geezer sure said seriously, which was rare for him. Because he didn't have the Emperor Yen Force that evolved from Zhu Rong Force, Lu Cheng's Frost Force didn't evolve into Ice Spirit Force in order to balance ice and fire. Okay. Lu Cheng suppressed his curiosity and didn't ask further. At this time, Geezer sure clicked his tongue and put his hands behind his back. Settle down well. Let's see how long it takes for you to reach the inhuman stage. After the training, the members of the martial arts club gathered and rushed to the airport to fly back to Songqing. Along the way, the others only knew that Lin Ke had returned to Shushan's study to recuperate. They were very excited to return home in glory. Lu Cheng revealed to Yan Zhika that his master was also leaving. Both of them were very sad. After getting off the plane, a school bus came to pick them up. Lu Cheng and the others returned to the new campus of Songqing University after a long absence. This time, the school bus stopped directly outside the martial arts arena so that they could put the Nationals champion trophy in the honor room first. On Monday, they would meet the principal to receive the commendation. After getting off the bus and walking to the entrance of the martial arts arena, Lu Cheng turned his head and complained to Yan Zhika with a smile. Suddenly, it feels a little strange. While talking, the two approached the entrance. Suddenly, they were stunned. Because the inside was full of students. Students spontaneously filled the seats. There were thousands of them, both male and female. They were holding banners and shouting in unison in an organized manner, "We're here. We're the champions." The warm and surging atmosphere hit him in the face. Lu Cheng's heart suddenly settled down and unconsciously revealed a smile. "We're the champions." End of part 2. Chapter 4:15. Ding. A message rang. Lu Cheng picked up his phone and found that the champion's prize money had been transferred to his account. Your savings account ending with XXXX received 250000 yuan electronically at 9:45 on April 30th. Current balance is 904,724. 84 yuan. Since this National University Martial Arts competition had attracted a lot of attention, the broadcasting copyright fee and ticket income had also increased. Every team that made it to the next round could get at least 500,000 yuan, which could be used to cover the transportation fee, accommodation fee for more than half a month, bus rental fee and training ground rental fee. There was still some left over, which could be used to give some subsidies to the coaches and team members. If a team entered the top 8, they could get at least 800,000 yuan. The top 4 would get 1,100,000 yuan, the second place would get 1,400,000 yuan, and the champion would get 1,800,000 yuan. This time, Songqing University was even more generous than during the preliminaries. After deducting 380,000 yuan for various expenses, they only took 300,000 yuan for management fee. As the core members, Geezer Shi, Lu Cheng and Lin Ke each got 250,000 yuan. Yan Zhika, who had more fights and won the key victory in the capital, got 100,000 yuan. Li Mao, who fought until he was injured, got 80,000 yuan. Kai Zongming, who fought alone, got 60,000 yuan. Lin Hua, who fought against the He brothers, got 40,000 yuan. Sun Jian, He Zi and Wang Dali, the 3 substitutes, got 15,000 yuan each. Li Xiaowen, who did daily chores, got 10,000 yuan. As for the rest, the team members who participated in the special training but didn't go to the capital got 3,000 yuan each. The rest went to the public account of the martial arts club to cover their daily expenses, such as computer maintenance, dinner parties. Unknowingly, I'm going to be a millionaire soon. Lu Cheng took a screenshot and showed off his little bank account to Yan Zhika, feeling both happy and amused. He didn't think that he was rich, but as a college student he didn't need to buy a house for the time being. He didn't need to consider buying a car, so he didn't need to prepare for his wedding, honeymoon expenses, funds to feed his children and future retirement savings. What's more, he could go to the Ice God Sex business and get some elixirs and ingredients every month. He spent most of his time on campus and only went out for a date once every 1 or 2 weeks. No matter how much he ate, as long as he didn't chase after the best ingredients, he wouldn't consume too much. Adding all of these together, even including the extra elixirs for the swordsman formula, he had used less than 100,000 elixirs since the middle of February. In the past, Lu Qing would have been under a lot of pressure to make money. However, with Wu Ting's father's endorsement contract of 700,000 yuan and the prize of the national competition champion of 250,000 yuan, it was inevitable that he would feel that no matter how much money he spent, he wouldn't be able to spend it. Looks like I'm still too naive. He silently gave himself a thumbs up. Yanjika replied quickly. My bonus has arrived. Including mine, you're a millionaire. Shouldn't we say that our family happens to be millionaires? Lu Qing proudly pushed up his sunglasses and casually said, I've finished packing. Now I'm here to look for you? They had already made plans for a trip on the 1st of May. Thinking that they didn't have classes for the first half of the month and had to rely on self-study, they decided to leave early and return late. Not only could they avoid the traffic rush hour, but they could also almost double their holiday. What a wonderful thing. Yanjika replied with a blank expression, wait for a while. I'll put something on and do it a little. Are you going to put on makeup? What a serious treatment. I'm a little flattered. Lu Qing replied with a raised eyebrow expression. Didn't you say that I pay special attention to girls and that I'm not serious about dating you? Humph, I'll fulfill your wish. Yanjika sent an emoji of looking up at the sky. I'm looking forward to it. Lu Qing began to imagine. Putting down his phone, he looked around in his free state. He happened to see model worker Zhang Jingye carrying his luggage and walking to the door, passing by him. Going on a trip with your girlfriend? Lu Qing asked with a smile. Yeah, you too? The northwestern man Zhang Jingye glanced at the big backpack on the table. Yeah. You're not going to class in the afternoon? Lu Qing teased. Zhang Jingye looked at him from the corner of his eyes and laughed. I think you're not going either. Yeah, what a coincidence. Lu Qing replied exaggeratedly. What a coincidence. Zhang Jingye replied with a smile and walked out of the door of the small dormitory. At this time, the head of the dormitory, Zhao Chong, took out a few books and stuffed them into his bag. He joked, I'm envious of you guys who have girlfriends. I can only focus on class. Hey Chong, didn't you say that you wanted to make a move on an old classmate? Lu Qing asked curiously. During the winter vacation, Zhao Chong reconnected with a high school classmate who was also studying in Songqing. In the past few months they had been chatting passionately. In the dormitory, he announced that he would seize the opportunity to make a move on her and get rid of the label of being single. Zhao Chong coughed twice and said with a blush, I'm just thinking about it. Classmate, you can't just think about it when it comes to chasing a girl. You have to put it into action. Don't be afraid of failure. Lu Qing first reminded him seriously and then snickered, you'll get used to it if you fail too many times. Anyway, there's the Casanova next door. It's not wrong to ask for more advice. Zhao Chong suddenly sighed, if I were half as capable as you, I would have made a move on her with full confidence. Since you said so, what else can I do? I can only reluctantly be proud of it. Lu Qing smiled and spread out his hands, but then again when I mustered up the courage to chase my coup, I didn't have much ability. I just used Piao Rou and that's how confident I was. He jokingly ran his fingers through his hair. Of course, to be honest, the substantial breakthrough in his relationship with Ku was because he had put her in his shoes during the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. He had gone through a period of high-spirited and miraculous journey with her. He had also shown the qualities and potential that made the girl feel reliable. Mustering up the courage to chase was a necessary condition, but not a sufficient one. After all, there was no rule in the world that if you were to chase a girl, she would have to accept it. You're right. Zhao Chong seemed to have just thought of this point. He seriously pondered and said, forget it. An elder used his own life experience to teach us that we should study more while we are young and grasp more knowledge in all aspects. We shouldn't waste our time on love. Lu Qing was speechless and watched Zhao Chong carry his bag and leave the dormitory. After playing with his phone for a while, he finally received a message from Yanjika. The girl said, you can go out in 5 minutes. Okay. Lu Qing quickly replied and carefully put his right arm through the strap of the backpack to carry his luggage. I'd better wait at the door of Ku's dormitory for these 5 minutes. When he was about to step out, old Qiu Zhigao ran back with sweat all over his face and shouted, Damn, I'm late, I'm late. He looked up and saw Lu Qing. He smiled and asked with expectation, Qing, do you think it's possible for me to reach the amateur third pin before my senior year? After almost 4 semesters of hard work, he sadly found that he was not cut out for studying. Although he had never failed a course, he was not in the top 20% of the class. He had not even won the lowest scholarship. No matter how hard he tried, he could not catch up. So he began to think about the problem realistically. He planned to pick up martial arts and get a certificate of amateur third pin, which would increase his chances of finding a job in his senior year. With your physique and strength, as long as you can hold more than 3 times a week, there's a good chance. Lu Qing answered pertinently. Qiu Zhigao suddenly beamed with joy. In his mind, Lu Qing was already a grandmaster in the martial arts circle of the university. If he said he had no problem, then there was no problem. Okay, if you have time, please give me some advice. Feel free to tell me if you need anything. Old Qiu was in a hurry to go to class. He hurriedly packed his bag and ran into the dormitory bathroom to take a cold shower. Phew, everyone's college development is different. Lu Qing sighed and left the small dormitory with his bag. When he passed by the next door, he glanced at him casually and was suddenly stunned. Student Xiaoming was immersed in his studies. Occasionally he would write furiously and draft a manuscript. Holy sh*t, what kind of blow did you get? Lu Qing was shocked and blurted out. Kai Zongming looked up and said grumpily, "What's wrong with studying hard? I haven't been in class for almost a month. I have to make up for it." As he spoke, he revealed a self-deprecating smile. "I didn't say it. My Fang Yuan said it. Then why don't you go to the classroom to study by yourself?" Lu Qing suddenly realized and asked subconsciously. "Is there a problem with studying by myself in the dormitory?" Little Ming asked in confusion. "Aren't you afraid that you can't resist the temptation of computer games?" Lu Qing laughed. "Since mobile games became popular, I can play in the classroom if I want to. I don't care about appearances." Kai Zongming answered righteously. Lu Qing clicked his tongue and said, "But the atmosphere in the classroom is different. Everyone is studying. You will be embarrassed to play mobile games by yourself. So you will control yourself." Kai Zongming snorted and said with a look of disdain, "Qing, do you think I'm the kind of person who will be influenced by others and be affected by the atmosphere and then stop playing games and studying seriously?" "No." Lu Qing gave him a thumbs up, turned around and rushed to the door. After waiting for a few minutes outside the third dormitory, Lu Qing saw his girlfriend walking out gracefully with a new suitcase. Her bangs were elegant, her facial features were delicate, her dress was elegant, and her legs were straight. She was like a painting. Ku is so beautiful after dressing up. Lu Qing didn't hide his loving and burning eyes. Yanjika raised her chin slightly and looked away proudly. "Let me do it." Lu Qing reached out to take her suitcase. "No need. I'll take it myself, you handicapped person." Yanjika glanced at him. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Handicapped? What the hell is handicapped?" "Hee hee." Yanjika smiled and then turned to him. "You have to hold my hand when you have time." Lu Qing smiled and said, "It's okay. I'm not wearing a splint. It's not a problem to hold a fairy's hand." Yanjika was about to say something when her phone rang. It was a call. "My grandpa." She glanced at it and said to Lu Qing in confusion. Then she chose to pick it up. "Hello, Grandpa?" "Hello, Ku." Ji Jinzhang's slightly old voice laughed. "Bring Lu here on the 1st of May. Let me and your grandma see him." Chapter 416. Yanjika was a little confused at her grandpa's order. She looked at Lu Qing and didn't reply directly. What the hell is going on? Why is Grandpa suddenly asking me to take Qing to Jiangnan? Why didn't he say so earlier? Lu Qing's senses were very strong now. He had already heard everything in front of him. While thinking, he nodded to his girlfriend with a smile, indicating that he was fine with it. Although he was disappointed that he couldn't travel with Ku alone, getting the approval of her elders would give her a strong sense of security. Anyway, there will be similar opportunities in the future. After asking for her boyfriend's opinion, Yanjika came back to her senses. She puffed up her cheeks and said, "Grandpa, why didn't you say so earlier? Qing and I have other plans." Okay, we'll come over. We'll change it right away." Ji Jinzhang smiled and said, "I thought you would take the initiative to bring him to see me. But after waiting day after day, there was still no news. So I had to be thick-skinned and invite him myself." Yanjika blushed and smiled embarrassedly. "I was thinking of waiting for the summer vacation." She was afraid that her silly Qing would be bullied, so she planned to wait until Lu Qing reached the inhuman stage before bringing him to the Ji family. "Let's do it today. Send me Lu's identity information. I'll ask someone to arrange the itinerary for you." Ji Jianzhang chuckled. After the call, Yanjika glanced at Lu Qing and said coquettishly, "Grandpa, you're too much. We've already booked the plane tickets and hotel before you tell us." "It's okay. Traveling anywhere is still traveling." Lu Qing smiled comfortingly. But my strategy won't be of any use. Coach Yin will have to rely on you to lead the way. Don't worry, I won't lose you. Yin Zhika smiled and was touched by her boyfriend's understanding. Then she deliberately livened up the atmosphere. I'm so angry. I can't get a full refund. It's all Grandpa's fault. I'll ask him to give you a big red packet. Red packet? Lu Qing asked blankly. It's a tradition in Jiangnan. Men and women who have confirmed their relationship cough. Yin Zhika's cheeks were slightly red. She turned her head and said, when you visit for the first time, the elders will give you a red packet. It's a red packet from my grandson-in-law. Lu Qing concluded with a smile. To be honest, he was not nervous about meeting Yin Zhika's grandpa and grandma. In the eyes of the young people of his generation, the father-in-law and mother-in-law were directly related to the girlfriend. Naturally, they would pay more attention to it and feel more nervous. Grandpa and grandma didn't seem to have a big impact on them after a generation. As for the fact that he was a physical invulnerability expert, it wasn't like he hadn't seen one before. He didn't have a physical invulnerability expert backing him up. While they were chatting and laughing, Yin Zhika sent Lu Cheng's personal information to her grandpa and waited for him to coordinate. The Songqing University students around them had already cast their gazes on them and sent silent greetings. Some of them even plucked up the courage to ask for autographs. Since winning the national championship, Lu Cheng had been in the state of everyone in Songqing University. He had become the idol of many seniors, juniors, and classmates of the same year. Wherever he went, he would attract attention and feel goodwill. Just as he was considering the fact that the sun was getting brighter and the number of onlookers was increasing, he had to drag Ku to a cafe or other places to avoid the heat. Soon a phone call came to her. He told her about several first-class cabins and asked her to choose. If she was still not satisfied, she could use Shushan Study's private jet and apply for a flight route. Let's take the 12:30 flight. Yin Zhika didn't want to bother others and quickly made a decision. Then they took the school bus out of Songqing University and arrived at the airport according to the original plan. However, the flight had changed, and the destination on the ticket was changed from the neighboring province to Jiangnan province. There was no delay and no delay. The flight took off on time. Lu Cheng drank the mineral water that was cooled by itself and casually chatted with his girlfriend. "Ko, I'm thinking about a problem." "What?" Yin Zhika turned her head and looked at her boyfriend with clear and beautiful eyes. And I'm saying if your parents and your grandparents are not satisfied with me and don't want you to marry me, what will you do?" Lu Cheng asked with a smile. It was because Empress Dowager was satisfied with him and his father-in-law didn't object that he dared to ask this question. It was just a way for couples to communicate. Yin Zhika rolled her eyes and bit her lower lip with her white teeth. Her dimples appeared. "Of course I'll listen to them." "Ah." Lu Cheng was stunned. "Ko, that's not the right answer." Seeing his reaction, Yin Zhika covered her mouth and chuckled, like spring water flowing out of a spring. In the end she said, "You're such a good liar." After joking, she pursed her lips and said while thinking, "I'm the one getting married, not them. My opinion is the most important. If they don't object, I'm happy. If they object, I'll do what I want. As long as I have the ability to support myself and live a good life, other people's opinions are just decorations. I don't think the blessings of relatives are important. Empress Dowager didn't give me any blessings, but she still lived happily. I find that you are deeply influenced by Empress Dowager." Lu Cheng was delighted by her answer. "You have a gem in front of you." Yin Zhika smiled and then asked, "What about you? If your parents don't like me, what will you do?" *CK asking about this kind of thing always brings me back to myself. Lu Cheng criticized himself in his mind. First he complimented, "My Ku is so cute, so pretty, so kind and so sensible. My parents will definitely like you." He paused for a moment and said in a serious tone, "My thoughts are about the same as yours. Yes, it's all thanks to Coach Yan's good influence. Also maybe it's because I've grown up. I have the strength and confidence to not rely on my parents, and I can live a good life on my own. Therefore their opinions are only for reference. I will be filial to them, but that doesn't mean that I have to listen to everything they say. Actually, in my family now, I'm pretty much the one who makes the decisions for me." This was a natural evolution of family status. As long as one's character was not weak, not stupidly filial, and was able to make a decision, after one's career had reached a certain level, one would almost always make decisions for his parents instead of them. Yin Zhika listened to Lu Cheng quietly, her eyes sparkling. But in the end she burst out laughing. Ching, haha, I just thought of a saying. Haha, when you have a wife you forget your mother. Hey, be serious. Lu Qing spread his hands helplessly. When couples were together, as long as they were serious about getting married and spending the rest of their lives together, they would inevitably fantasize about the future and discuss every aspect of their marriage life. Unknowingly, the plane began to descend and landed steadily on the tarmac. After taxiing for a while, Lu Qing and Yan Zhika exited the cabin and walked towards the arrival hall. On the way, the girl received a call and turned to Lu Qing. Qing, let's go straight to the parking lot later. Brother Ling Chen is coming to pick me up. The previous generation of the Ji family had the word Ming, while the current generation had the word Ling. Ji Lingqian was not from Ji Jinzhang's branch, but belonged to his younger brother's branch. He was a martial artist at 28 years old and had been in the Inhuman stage for 2 years. He was a fifth pin professional and was the vice president of the Ji family's security company. He had a good relationship with this side. Yan Zhika's first uncle's daughter was her closest cousin, Ji Lingxi. Her second uncle's 2 children were her cousin, Ji Lingfeng and Ji Lingyun. Brother Lingqian is coming personally. Haha, every time you mention him, I'm reminded of my pocket change. Lu Qing joked, dragging his suitcase with his left hand and letting the girl hold his right hand. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and laughed softly. Me too. I always laugh when I call him that. You should call him Brother Lingqian too. When you see my grandparents, you should call them Grandpa Ji and Grandma Do or Senior Ji and Senior Do. She seriously reminded him about how to address him. It didn't take long for them to find the location Ji Lingqian had mentioned. They saw a dark blue SUV. Ji Lingqian was tall and thin with handsome features and a calm temperament. He was casually dressed in a dark casual shirt and pants. When he saw Lu Qing and Yan Zhika walking over hand in hand, he shook his head and smiled. Lu Qing, isn't your arm injured? Don't spoil my sister. Brother Lingqian, what are you talking about? He insisted on holding my hand and didn't allow me to carry my own luggage. Yan Zhika pouted. Brother Lingqian. Lu Qing followed suit. He smiled and moved his right arm. It's already healed. Ji Lingqian sighed. Seeing you like this reminds me of my first love. Hey, get in the car. We'll talk in the car. The car door opened. The interior was spacious. There were curtains and partitions blocking the driver's seat so that the driver couldn't see the situation behind. The 2 rows of seats were arranged so that they faced each other. There was a bar counter and a small refrigerator around them. After putting down their luggage, Lu Qing didn't look around the car. He sat down with Yan Zhika. Ji Lingqian plopped down on the seat opposite them. What do you want to drink? He smiled and pointed at the bar counter. I'm not drinking. I drank a lot on the plane. Yan Zhika turned to Lu Qing. How about you? I'm not drinking either. Lu Qing shook his head. As they spoke, the car door closed. The car moved forward steadily and made silent turns. Ji Lingqian crossed his arms in front of him and laughed. Lu Qing, I'll call you Little Lu, otherwise we'll be too distant. I've watched your key matches in the university tournament. Not bad. Could you have a good eye? You're much better than I was when I was young. No wonder Second Grandpa invited you here. Speaking of this, he looked at Yan Zhika and said, Second Grandpa did this in a hurry. Everyone was away for the holidays. I went to the south to do a security mission. I was so tired that I was resting at home. But I was asked to do this. I thought Grandpa had it all arranged. That's good. Yan Zhika was puzzled at first, but then she sighed in relief. This way Qing only needed to see Grandpa and Grandma. It would be easier and less awkward. Her boyfriend would feel bad for her. What's good about it? Lingxi and Lingfeng said they wanted to come back and meet the heavenly son of the era. Ji Lingqian snorted. Regardless of whether Ji Lingqian was being sincere or not, Lu Qing felt an inexplicable sense of vanity when he heard his words. He was secretly pleased. Along the way, Yan Zhika and Ji Lingqian were the only ones chatting. Lu Qing interjected from time to time, so he wasn't too reserved. When the car arrived at the Ji family's old house and entered the courtyard, Lu Qing's breath caught his attention. Through the dark glass, he saw a thin old man with graying sideburns standing beside a flower stand. Grandpa! Yan Zhika jumped out of the car and shouted. Lu Qing followed and greeted him respectfully. Senior Ji. This was the famous heaven-leaning sword. His aura was as deep as the sea. Ji Jianzhang smiled and nodded. He said to Yan Zhika, Go in and meet your grandma. At this point he turned to look at Lu Qing. Little Lu, accompany me for a walk. Chapter 417. The scenery on both sides receded as the car sped along. Lu Qing was a little scared and couldn't help but advise her, "Ku, you don't have to drive so fast." Yanjika glanced at him out of the corner of her eyes. She let go of the accelerator and slowed down. Blushing, she said with an embarrassed smile, "I saw others overtaking me and driving so fast, so I thought that it's okay to drive faster. Aren't they all the same?" Lu Qing was dumbfounded as he listened. He carefully observed his surroundings, using his eyes to measure the details of his surroundings. "What are you thinking about?" Yanjika's right foot in white casual shoes unconsciously stepped on the accelerator again. Lu Qing answered with a complicated expression, "I'm thinking about how to accelerate if something goes wrong, how to step on the brake, and how to resist the collision from the opposite side." Yanjika slowed down the accelerator again and didn't know what to say for a while. When they stopped at the traffic light, she asked with both annoyance and amusement, "Am I really that bad? I think everything went well except for the ignition at the beginning." "It's not about bad. Ku, you're not in the right state of mind. You can't always think about overtaking others and driving so fast. You have to control yourself. How can you not wet your shoes if you always walk on the roadside?" Lu Qing was afraid that Ku would have an accident when he was not with her, so he reminded her seriously, which was rare. Yanjika pouted, "Okay, I'll try my best." The green light flashed and the car started again. This time, she listened to Lu Qing's advice and drove very steadily. Sometimes she wanted to overtake or speed up, but she realized it in time and controlled herself. "Where are we going for a drive?" Lu Qing was in the mood to look at the scenery outside the car. He saw tall buildings and a river of lights. Yanjika smiled and said in a light tone, "I'll take you to see the night market in Linning first, and then we'll go to the river to get some fresh air." The capital of Jiangnan province was called Linning. "Night market? What's it like?" Lu Qing thought of the flea market in Xiushan. You'll know when we get there." Yanjika kept him guessing with a smile on her face. The car turned left and right and arrived at a busy street half an hour later. At first glance, the street was as bright as day. Simple shops were lined up in 3 rows and meandered into the distance. Crowds of people and voices filled the air. With the help of the reversing radar and video, Yanjika parked the car with a sense of accomplishment. She held Lu Cheng's hand and walked into the night market. There were all kinds of cheap items for sale here, such as clothes and cell phone cases, as well as fragrant delicacies. Lu Cheng stretched out his left hand and put it on the girl's other shoulder. He pulled her to his side, separating her from the pedestrians who were rubbing shoulders. As they walked and stopped, Yanjika fully enjoyed the pleasure of bargaining. Although she was not interested in those things, she just wanted to experience life. She criticized Lu Cheng seriously, saying that he had never learned how to bargain. Every time he talked, it would be, "How much is it? 150? Can you make it cheaper? No, okay, give it to me," and so on. He never deviated from the basic principle. They started their business here. Now it's a national chain. But other than this place, they don't taste good. Their family started their business here, and now it's a national chain restaurant. But other than here, the other restaurants don't taste good. I think their other stores are good. Lu Qing asked with interest. "I think their other stores are okay." Lu Qing asked with interest. "That's because you haven't eaten anything good." While they were talking, the chicken was ready and put into a bag. They held hands and ate as they walked. They both thought it was like a student couple on a date. While they were talking, the chicken chops were ready and put into a bag. The two of them each took a piece, held hands and ate as they walked. Both of them felt that this was like a student couple dating. It's true. It's much better than the ones in Songqing. Lu Qing chewed on the tender chicken chop and expressed his admiration in surprise. He swallowed half of it in 2 or 3 bites. Yanjika lifted her chin slightly and smiled smugly. "I told you, but you didn't believe me." She took out her phone and let Lu Qing lean his head and body to her. They held the chicken and took a selfie. She took out her phone and asked Lu Qing to take a selfie with the chicken. She didn't like to take pictures. She didn't know when it started, but she, who didn't like taking pictures, started to like using this method to record the interesting things they experienced together. Snap. Yanjika pursed her lips and tilted her head, trying to portray a beautiful image. Lu Qing, on the other hand, didn't care. He laughed and said, "Ku, you haven't eaten much at roadside stalls before, right? Where did you get this place?" "My cousin, Sister Lingxi brought me here once." Yanjika answered with a sweet smile. Sister Lingxi is indeed an experienced player. Lu Qing nodded in understanding. Ji Lingxi was the eldest daughter of the Ji family. She was 4 years older than Ku. She was born with great strength but didn't like martial arts. She wanted to study and be a manager. She was a professional ninth pin fighter in her first year and was still a professional ninth pin fighter in her fourth year. 2 years after graduation she reached the threshold of the dance stage. She was a very playful person. She skateboarded, surfed, rappelling, sang, danced, traveled, took a cruise to the sea, collected bags and so on. In addition, she was also interested in experiencing the different specialties of different places, exploring roadside delicacies and interesting shops. She was the kind of person who could go to banquets and food stalls. They talked and laughed. They ate from the chicken chop shop to the end of the night market. They ate from one stall after another, all of which were certified by the gourmet Jianghu. After a round, they returned to the car from the outside of the night market. Yanzhika led Lu Cheng to the riverside to take a walk in the cool night wind. The Ning River was wide and refreshing. The water blew on their faces, moistening their skin and soul. The girl held Lu Cheng's hand and walked beside the guardrail. She giggled and swayed as if she was still a little girl. "It's late. We have to go back." She looked at her watch. "We can stay out all night." Lu Cheng instigated with a half-truth and half-lie. Yanzhika rolled her eyes at him and mimicked his tone. "Then you will be hunted down by my grandpa and grandma for 8 streets." Shivering, Lu Cheng joked. It was his first day here and he had already abducted someone's granddaughter and stayed out all night. Was he asking for a beating or a beating? They opened the door and got into the car. Yanzhika had just sat down. Before she could fasten the seat belt or start the car, she felt her body tilted and fell into Cheng's arms. "You." Just as she raised her head, she saw Lu Cheng's scorching black eyes. Having shared a bed and pillow intimately during the national competition, Lu Cheng had long been itching to make a move. Due to Yan Kai and Ji Mingyu's interference and other reasons, they hadn't been intimate for the past week. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Yanzhika closed her eyes, straightened her fair and slender neck like that of a swan and gave in. Her legs were curled up on her side, and she was in the same position as her boyfriend. They were squeezed very closely together. Lu Cheng had observed the surroundings and knew that there was no one here. He kissed her passionately and let his hands move. He started from her shoulders, back and legs and gradually went deeper. "Could this seat, can it be reclined?" Lu Cheng asked anxiously as he kissed the girl's ear. "I can't do it like this. I don't know. You can search." Yanzhika answered in a soft and confused voice. She didn't even know what she was talking about. Search at this time? Lu Cheng didn't want to be distracted. He wanted to use forced concentration to lean against her and knock down the seat. At this moment, a sharp ringing sound rang out, echoing continuously. Yanzhika pushed Lu Cheng away and glared at him with embarrassment and anger in her eyes. She pursed her moist lips, picked up her phone and answered the call. "Hello, Sister Lingxi? You're back." "Yes, we're outside. I brought Cheng to the night market." "Okay, we're going back." Lu Cheng laughed helplessly at the side. He reached out and helped her tidy up her clothes. "Humph, it's dangerous to be with you." Yanzhika sat back in the driver's seat and calmed herself down. She started the ignition with a blushing face. "I haven't been intimate with you for a long time." Lu Cheng adjusted his pants. Yanzhika glared at him and bit her lip. "It'll be fine after a few days. Anyway, I'm on my period tomorrow." As she spoke, she burst into laughter. "I know. Oh, where's your aunt?" Lu Cheng changed the topic and asked about his aunt. "She went to Shushan study to take care of my brother." Yanzhika calmed herself down and started the car. The journey was smooth without any accidents. They arrived at the old house of the Ji family in 40 minutes. After parking the car, Lu Cheng and Yanzhika walked towards the main entrance. Before they could get close, they heard someone talking loudly inside. "My 300,000 for a gram. It has a medicinal fragrance. It can cure many diseases. It's not as good as your Buddhist beads, Brother Li. This string of prayer beads is made of ordinary materials. It was blessed by a senior monk from the Daxing temple and nourished by chanting scriptures every day for half a year. I was unlucky last year, so my dad begged for this string of prayer beads. It's hard to say how much it's worth." All right. Don't brag about it every time. Get one for each of us if you can." "What the hell?" Lu Cheng was confused. This was a field he didn't understand at all. Yanzhika glanced at him and said in a low voice, "Don't mind them. They like to play these games." "It's boring." She turned the handle and pushed the door open. 2 men and 2 women were chatting in the main hall. Lu Cheng recognized Ji Lingxi at a glance. She looked more like the Empress Dowager than his classmate Ko. She was tall and graceful, but her eyebrows were not sharp enough. "You're back?" Ji Lingxi's white t-shirt, denim shorts and high-heeled sandals showcased her figure to the fullest. She stood up with a smile and said, "Come, let me introduce you. This is Zhang Li, the young master of the Jindi group. His father has a good relationship with several eminent monks of Daxing Temple." Zhang Li's skin was dark and his eyes were ordinary. He wore a dark brown prayer beads on his wrist. "This is Han Jingqiao. His mother is the chairman of the Provincial Martial Artist Association." Ji Lingxi pointed to the other man with a smile. Han Jingqiao was more handsome than Zhang Li, but his eyes were heavy and his qi and blood were not strong enough. He was holding a green pendant in his hand. "This is Guogua. Could you know her? We've had dinner together a few times. Her father is now independent." Ji Lingxi looked at the girl with long wavy hair beside her. Then she pointed to Yan Zhika and said, "I don't think I need to tell you. My cousin Yan Zhika." A few guys wanted to pursue her but they were beaten to the punch. "Hey Ku, introduce him yourself." Yan Zhika looked at Lu Cheng and thought for a moment. The corners of her mouth curled up, and she said simply without adding anything, "He's Lu Cheng." Chapter 418. He's Lu Cheng. The four simple words made the atmosphere suddenly solemn. Zhang Li, Guogua, and the others were silent for more than 10 seconds. "See, this is the heavenly son of the age." Ji Lingxi was the first to come back to herself. She smiled and looked at her companions. Then she turned to Yan Zhika and complained, "When they heard that Lu Cheng was coming, they were so excited and curious. They shamelessly followed me home. They wanted to see what the heavenly son of the age looked like and whether he had 3 heads and 6 arms. So I'm a monster?" Lu Cheng replied humorously. No, you're not a monster. After practicing martial arts for a year and a half, you've already reached the top of 6th pin. You're not a monster. You're a Superman." Zhang Li smiled. He was relatively calm. His left hand began to twirl the dark brown prayer beads. "Yes, Superman." Han Jingqiao echoed with an exaggerated smile. Then he asked in confusion, "Lu Cheng, why do I feel that you look a little different from on TV?" "How so?" Lu Cheng looked at Yan Zhika with a smile and found that she was just as confused as he was. It had only been 5 or 6 days since he last appeared on TV. Guogua was a short and delicate girl with a rather imposing face. She said in a low voice, "You're a little different. On TV you're more, how do I put it? More flamboyant. You have a temperament that people don't dare to look at directly." "Ah, I understand now. During an intense battle, I will definitely release my aura to oppress and affect the opponent's mind." When the match was over and I was interviewed, I hadn't completely calmed down. Lu Cheng suddenly understood. The me on TV was a battle form. So that's how it is. When you're free you're like a forest, when you're in a battle you're like a fire. Zhang Li nodded thoughtfully. They were the kind of people who didn't like martial arts. They would only watch highly watched matches that attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, even though there were many seniors and experts around them, they didn't notice some details. After the small talk, the atmosphere became relatively livelier. Ji Lingxi, Han Jingqiao, and the others sat down and began to chat about various things. It was obvious that they wanted Lu Cheng to be the center of the conversation. Seeing that he wasn't interested, they didn't mention the prayer beads and ambergris. Instead, they talked about the gossip in the martial arts circle. Lu Cheng didn't care about what they were talking about. He didn't feel the slightest inferiority even if their collection was worth all his savings. Instead, he took it as an opportunity to broaden his horizons and listened quietly. He didn't mind. Time ticked by. Lu Cheng pressed on his phone, looked at the screen and stood up with a smile. As time ticked, Lu Lingxi. Ji stood. He was surprised. His tone was normal but there was an indisputable tone to it. Ji Lingxi stood up and asked in surprise, "So early? Ever since he started practicing martial arts, he's been living like an old man." "Yeah, so am I." Yan Zhika explained for her boyfriend with a smile and thought of an excuse to get herself out of this situation. "Zhang. We Sming," Cheng said, Yan Li Yan Cheng, let's go fishing and enjoy the breeze. Oh, there are a few underground fights in the international waters." With the existence of referees, the arena matches were more than exciting but not exciting enough. In order to satisfy their own desires and needs to vent, some tycoons would privately organize underground arena matches in war-torn zones and on the high seas. Arena matches without referees. If they really fought like this, even if no one died, there would definitely be a scene of blood splattering everywhere and bones breaking. It would excite the bestial side of humans. Of course, the fighters who were willing to fight in challenge tournaments to make quick money were not very strong. If there was a dance stage 7th or 6th pin fighter, they would have a guarantor and a chance to repay the debt. No need. Lu Qing looked at Yan Zhika and turned her down with a smile. Tomorrow he would stay at home with Ku and rub her tummy. Today was one of the days left out in the travel plan. Fine. I'll look for you next time. With your listening skill, I'm sure you can catch a lot of fish. Zhang Li didn't insist. He left the Ji family's old house with Han Jingqiao and Guogua and got into his SUV. He took off the dark brown prayer beads and put them on the gear shift. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "What do you think? What do you think of Lu Qing?" "He's a gentle, friendly, and introverted person." Han Jingqiao rubbed his eye bags and answered seriously. "But don't you think he has a strong aura? It's like he's telling us what to do and we can only listen obediently." Guogua frowned and whispered, "Ah, that's normal. It's the confidence of a mighty one accumulated from victory after victory. My mom is the same. She doesn't have to get angry or speak loudly. As long as she makes a decision, I don't even dare to fart." Han Jingqiao laughed at himself. Not to mention a heavenly son of the age. Yeah. Zhang Li started the engine and started the car. Anyway, whether Lu Qing can reach physical invulnerability or not, I think he'll definitely become an inhuman. Han Jingqiao added, "We're not strong and have no interest in martial arts. It's good to make more friends like him." "Yo, I didn't expect young Master Han, who loves wine, cars and women, to say something like that," Guogua mocked. Han Jingqiao usually behaved like a typical rich playboy. "This is called being vigilant in times of peace," he replied, clicking his tongue. Zhang Li nodded in agreement and said slowly, "Since you have this understanding, it's not a waste of my advice. Why do you think Lingxi insisted on coming back today?" "Sisterly love? Isn't that so?" Guogua and Han Jingqiao asked in surprise. Zhang Li chuckled. "The Ji family is a typical martial arts family. Don't be fooled by the wealth and power of the outside world. Internally, strength is still the most important factor." Guogua interrupted him before he could finish. She played with her long wavy hair and said with a frown, "Uncle Ji's 4 siblings are very harmonious and close. That's because there are old masters and old ladies above them. Where there are people, there are conflicts. Where there are money and power, there are disputes. In order to have strong children to stabilize his foundation, Uncle Ji kept many lovers outside. Unfortunately, none of them turned out to be successful. He didn't dare to bring them home." Zhang Li sighed. "Lingxi has shed countless tears because of this. Don't be fooled by her carefree attitude. In fact, she knows better than anyone else. She knows that she can't achieve anything in martial arts and doesn't want to fight for anything. She just wants to maintain her current status and lifestyle. Therefore, continuing to befriend Yan Zhika, who has a good relationship with her, is the most reasonable and practical choice. Especially when she has a really good boyfriend, the really good kind." Although Lu Qing had been dealing with the heavenly sons of the age recently, which made it seem like there were many young fighters at this level, in fact there might not even be one in several provinces. At least among Zhang Li and Han Jingqiao, only Lin Ke was slightly close to this level. In a situation where a high-ranked inhuman dance stage fighter could be considered as the upper class of a province, it was normal for the heavenly sons of the age who had a good chance of reaching physical invulnerability to be highly valued. "Brother Li." Han Jingqiao was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but gasp. "You've hidden your strength well." He could see things so clearly. Zhang Li sneered. "My family has a lot of people. If they were stupid, they would have been swallowed long ago. How could I be the young master?" Speaking of this, he sighed again. "I really envy Lu Qing and the others now. They are strong and not afraid of scheming against each other. Anyway, I'm waiting for a chance to help him or be helped by him. Either way, it could improve the relationship between both parties." In the guest room of the Ji family's old house, Lu Qing, who was under the nose of a physical invulnerability expert, didn't sneak into the bedroom. After washing up, he lay on the bed and received a call from his mother. After chatting for a while, Qi Fang said mysteriously, "Your brother has hit the jackpot recently." Lu Qing was dumbfounded. Lu Yanwei really succeeded in starting his business? He didn't say anything about it recently. Erzi expanded his business to Xioshan. He asked your brother to help and even gave him shares. Qi Fang gossiped excitedly. She didn't feel jealous because her son was very successful after all. Others couldn't catch up to him easily. Lu Qing was stunned and asked doubtfully, "Who's Erzi?" Qi Fang didn't know what to say. After a while she said, "He's a relative from Qingfu's hometown. He often comes to visit your grandpa and grandma." "Ah, I remember. He's quite a nice guy," Lu Qing said perfunctorily. "You have no taste. How could you ask your brother for help? Didn't you see how many things he has failed?" Qi Fang insisted that Lu Yanwei didn't have the ability to start a business. "It doesn't matter. It's not us who will suffer losses." Lu Qing laughed. "That's true. Also, your dad got promoted recently. Fatty Guo put him in charge of the whole factory and even gave him shares. Qing, do you think it's because of you? You just won the national championship and Fatty Guo brought this up. What's that idiom? What's that?" Qi Fang wasn't well educated. "It's the icing on the cake." Lu Qing added on behalf of his mother, "Fatty Guo is a nice guy. Didn't he help me in my hour of need?" "That's true. Anyway, if he really asks you for help, don't worry about us. If you can help, just do it. If not, just forget it," Qi Fang said with concern. Yes, Lu Qing answered with a smile. When the phone was hung up and the surroundings were quiet, he sighed with emotion. As he made his name in the national competition and gained the reputation of the favored fighter of the age, everything around him was changing. Maybe it had changed before, but it was definitely not as obvious as it was now. Without him saying anything, the fate of his relatives and friends had changed. It was only now that Lu Qing truly understood what it meant to have a change in status. Chapter 419. The scenery on both sides receded as the car sped along. Lu Qing was a little scared and couldn't help but dissuade her. "Ko, you don't have to drive so fast." Glancing at him from the corner of her eye, Yanjika released the accelerator and slowed down. She blushed and said with an embarrassed smile, "When I see others overtaking me and driving so fast, I want to overtake them. I think it's okay to drive faster. Aren't they all the same?" Lu Qing was dumbfounded. He carefully observed his surroundings, measuring the details with his eyes. "What are you thinking about?" Yanjika unconsciously pressed the accelerator with her right foot in white casual shoes. Lu Qing answered with a complicated expression. "I'm thinking about how to exert force, how to brake, and how to resist the collision of the opposite side if there is a problem." Yanjika slowed down the accelerator again and didn't know what to say. When the car stopped at the traffic light, she asked with anger and amusement, "Am I really that bad at driving? I feel that everything is smooth today except for the ignition at the beginning." "It's not a problem of bad or not. You have the wrong mentality. You can't always think about overtaking others and driving so fast. You need to control yourself. If you often walk on the side of the road, your shoes will get wet." Lu Qing was afraid that Ku would have an accident when he wasn't with her, so he seriously reminded her. Yanjika pouted and said, "Okay, I'll try." The green light flashed and the car started again. This time, the girl listened to Lu Qing's advice and drove steadily. Occasionally, she wanted to overtake and speed up, but she noticed it in time and controlled herself. "Where are we going for a ride?" Lu Qing was in the mood to look at the scenery outside the car. He saw towering buildings and rivers of lights. Yanjika showed her dimples and said in a light tone, "I'll take you to see the night market of Lining first and then to the river bank." The capital of Jiangnan province was called Lining. "Night market? What's it like?" Lu Qing thought of the flea market in Xiushan. "Hey, you'll know when you get there." Yanjika kept him guessing with a smile on her face. The car turned left and right, and after half an hour they arrived at a bustling street. At a glance, the street was as bright as day, and simple shops were arranged in 3 rows, winding into the distance. There were people everywhere and voices filled the air. With the help of the reversing radar and images, Yanjika parked the car with a sense of accomplishment. Holding Lu Qing's hand, they entered the night market. There were all kinds of cheap goods such as clothes and mobile phone cases as well as a lot of delicious food. Lu Qing reached out his left hand and wrapped it around the girl's other shoulder. He pulled her closer to him, separating them from the pedestrians who were rubbing shoulders with each other so that they wouldn't brush against each other. The two of them walked and stopped. Yanjika fully enjoyed the pleasure of bargaining. Although she didn't like those things at all, she just wanted to experience life. She also sternly criticized Lu Qing, saying that he had never learned how to bargain. Every time he talked he would say, "How much? 150? Can you make it cheaper?" "No." "Fine, give it to me." After strolling for a while, Yanjika led Lu Qing to a roadside stall and asked for 2 big chicken steaks. While waiting she said, "Their family started from here and now it has become a national chain. But except for here, the food in other places is not good. Really? I think the food in other stores is not bad. Lu Qing asked with interest. That's because you haven't eaten good food. Yan Zhika looked at her boyfriend with disdain, and then turned to sympathy. She laughed in a low voice and said, "Poor child, I can only take you to broaden your horizons." While talking, the chicken steaks were ready and put into a bag. They each took a piece, held hands, and walked while eating. Both of them felt that this was especially like a student couple on a date. It's true. It's much better than those in Songqing. Lu Qing expressed his admiration and surprise while gnawing on the tender chicken steaks. He ate half of them in a few bites. Yan Zhika slightly raised her chin and smiled with a little pride. "I told you, but you didn't believe me. Come, let's take a picture." She took out her phone and asked Lu Qing to lean his head and body over. They held the chicken steaks together and took a selfie. She didn't know when it started, but she, who didn't like to take pictures before, liked to record the interesting things they experienced together in this way. Click. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and tilted her head, outlining the beautiful image. Lu Qing showed his true colors indifferently. In the end, he laughed and said, "Ku, you haven't eaten at roadside stalls before, right? Where did you hear about this chicken steaks?" "My cousin. Well, Sister Lingxi took me here once." Yan Zhika answered with a sweet smile. Sister Lingxi is indeed a veteran player. Lu Qing nodded in realization. Ji Lingxi was the eldest daughter of this generation of the Ji family, 4 years older than Ku. She was born with extraordinary strength, but she didn't like to practice martial arts. She walked the path of learning and management. She had reached the level of professional 9th pin in her first year of college, and was still at professional 9th pin in her 4th year of college. 2 years after graduation, she had just touched the threshold of Dan's stage. She was a very playful person. She did everything like skateboarding, surfing, singing and dancing, hiking, cruising, collecting and buying bags. In addition, she was also interested in experiencing the different characteristics of different places, discovering the delicious food and interesting shops by the roadside. She was the kind of person who could attend banquets and go to roadside stalls. Talking and laughing, they ate from the chicken steak stall to the end of the night market. They ate one stall after another, all of which were certified by the gourmet Ji Lingxi. They took a detour from the outside of the night market to the car. Yan Zhika led Lu Qing to the riverside, where the cool night wind blew, and they strolled to digest the food. Ningjiang's blue waves were wide and spacious. Looking at it, one would feel refreshed and refreshed. The water rushed into one's face, nourishing one's skin and soul. The girl pulled Lu Qing while walking beside the guardrail. She giggled and swayed as if she was still a little girl. "It's getting late. We have to go back." She looked at her watch, still wanting to continue. "We can stay out all night," Lu Qing instigated, half joking. Yan Zhika rolled her eyes at him and imitated his tone. "Then you'll be chased by my grandpa and grandma all the way to 8 streets. Shivering in fear. Lu Qing joked. It was his first day in the house, and he was already abducting someone's granddaughter to stay out all night. Was he asking for a beating? They opened the door and entered the car from the left and right sides. Yan Zhika had just sat down, but before she could fasten her seatbelt and turn on the ignition, she felt her body tilting and falling towards the passenger seat. She was pulled into Cheng's arms. "You." Just as she raised her head, she saw Lu Cheng's burning black eyes. After experiencing the continuous bed and pillow sharing during the national competition, Lu Cheng had been itching for a long time because of Yan Zhika and Ji Mingyu's interference in the past week. It was easy to go from frugal to extravagant, but difficult to go from extravagant to frugal. Yan Zhika closed her eyes, straightened her slender neck like a swan, and kissed him gently. She sat with her legs curled up, overlapping with her boyfriend. They were very close together. Lu Qing had already observed the surroundings, so he knew there was no one here. While kissing her passionately, he started to caress her shoulders, back, legs and feet and gradually went deeper. "Could this seat? Can you put it upside down?" Lu Qing asked eagerly when he kissed her ear. "I can't do it like this." I don't know how to do it." "You can search for it." Yan Zhika answered in a faint and confused voice. She didn't even know what she was saying. Search for it at this time? Lu Qing didn't want to be distracted. He couldn't wait to use forced concentration. He leaned close to her and knocked the seat over. At this moment, a sharp ringtone sounded and kept echoing. Yan Zhika pushed Lu Qing away and glared at him shyly. She pursed her moist lips, picked up the phone and answered the call. "Hello, Sister Lingxi? You're back." "Yes, we're outside." I brought Ching to the night market. Okay, we're on our way back. Lu Cheng smiled helplessly and reached over to help Ku tidy up her clothes. Humph, it's so dangerous to be with you. Yenjika sat back in the driver's seat and calmed down. She started the ignition with a red face. I haven't been intimate with you for a long time. Lu Cheng adjusted his pants. Yenjika glared at him and bit her lip. It'll be fine after a few days. Anyway, my period starts tomorrow. As she spoke, she couldn't help but laugh. I know. By the way, where's your aunt? Lu Cheng changed the topic and asked about her real aunt. She went to Shushan's study to take care of my brother. Yenjika calmed down and started the car. The journey was smooth and there were no accidents. 40 minutes later, they arrived at the Ji family's old residence. They parked the car and walked to the front door. Before Lu Cheng and Yenjika got close, they heard people talking inside. Mine costs more than 300,000 yuan per gram. It smells like medicine. It can cure many diseases. It's not as good as your prayer beads, Brother Li. My prayer beads are made of ordinary material. They were blessed by the eminent monks of Daxing Temple and nourished by chanting scriptures every day for half a year. I was very unlucky last year. My dad gave up his pride and asked for this. It's hard to tell how much it's worth. Okay, don't show off this every time. If you're so good, get us one each. What the hell? Lu Cheng was at a loss. This was something he didn't understand at all. Yenjika glanced at him and said in a low voice, "Don't worry about them. They like to play these games. It's boring." She turned the doorknob and opened the door. 2 men and 2 women were chatting in the main hall. Lu Cheng recognized Ji Lingxi immediately. She looked more like Empress Dowager than Ko. She was tall and elegant, but her eyebrows were not sharp enough. "You're back?" Ji Lingxi wore a white t-shirt, denim shorts and a pair of high-heeled sandals. She stood up with a smile and said, "Come, let me introduce you. This is the young master of the Jindi group, Zhang Li. His father has a good relationship with the high monks of Daxing Temple." Zhang Li had dark skin and ordinary features. He wore a string of dark brown prayer beads on his wrist. "This is Han Jingqiao. His mother is the chairman of our province's Martial Artist Association." Ji Lingxi smiled and pointed at the other person. Han Jingqiao was more handsome than Zhang Li, but he had heavy eye bags and lacked vitality. He was holding a green pendant in his hand. "This is Guogua. Could you know her? We've had dinner together a few times. Her father is independent now." Ji Lingxi looked at the girl with long wavy hair beside her. After that, she pointed at Yenjika and said, "You don't need me to tell you. This is my cousin Yenjika. Several guys want to pursue her. Unfortunately, before they could do anything, someone else beat them to it. Hey Ku, you introduce your boyfriend." Yenjika looked at Lu Cheng and thought for a while. Then she smiled and said simply without any suffixes, "He's Lu Cheng." Chapter 420. He's Lu Cheng. The 4 simple words made the atmosphere solemn. Zhang Li, Guogua, and the others were silent for more than 10 seconds. "Look, this is the heavenly son of the age." Ji Lingxi was the first to come back to her senses. She smiled and looked at her companions. Then she turned to Yenjika and complained, "When they heard Lu Cheng was coming, they were so excited and curious that they wanted to follow me home. They wanted to see what the heavenly son of the age looked like and see if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. So I'm a monster?" Lu Cheng replied humorously. No. You're not a monster. You've been practicing martial arts for a year and a half and you're already at the top of the 6th pin. You're not a monster, you're a Superman." Zhang Li smiled. He was relatively calm. He turned the dark brown Buddhist prayer beads in his left hand. "Yes, a Superman." Han Jingqiao agreed with an exaggerated smile. In the end, he asked in confusion, "Lu Cheng, why do I feel that you're a little different from the one on TV? What's different?" Lu Cheng looked at Yenjika with a smile and found that she was just as confused as he was. It had only been 5 or 6 days since he last entered the broadcast. Guogua was a short and petite girl, but her facial features were quite imposing. At this time she also muttered, "It's a little different. The you on TV is more flamboyant. You have a kind of temperament that makes people not dare to look at you directly." I know what's going on. During a fierce battle, you'll definitely release your momentum to oppress and influence your opponent's mind. When the battle was over and you were interviewed, you still haven't completely calmed down, Lu Cheng said in realization. His TV appearance was considered his battle form. So that's how it is. When you're idle, you're like a forest, but when you're fighting, you're like a fire. Zhang Li nodded thoughtfully. None of them were interested in martial arts. They would only watch the matches that attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, even though there were many powerful seniors around them, they didn't notice the details. After such small talk, the atmosphere was relatively lively. Ji Lingxi, Han Jingqiao, and the others sat down and began to chat about various things. It was obvious that they were focusing on Lu Cheng. Seeing that he was not very interested, they did not mention the rosary beads, the yellow jade ambergris, and other things. Instead, they talked about the gossip of the martial arts circle. Lu Cheng didn't care about what they were talking about. Even if one of their collections was worth more than all of his savings, he didn't feel the slightest bit inferior. Instead, he took it as an opportunity to broaden his horizons and listen quietly. Since he had the confidence, there was no harm in doing so. Time ticked by. Lu Cheng tapped on his phone, looked at the screen, and got up with a smile. It's getting late. I need to rest. You guys take your time. His tone was normal, but there was a hint of irrefutability in it. Ji Lingxi stood up as well and asked in surprise, "So early?" Since he started practicing martial arts, he's been living like an old man. "Yeah, so am I," Yanzhika explained for her boyfriend with a smile. She also thought of an excuse for herself. "Then it's time for us to go back." Zhang Li turned the prayer beads and smiled. "We're going out to sea tomorrow. Do you want to join us? Let's go fishing and get some fresh air." Alright, there are a few fights on the open sea with no restrictions on life and death. There were referees in the challenge tournament. It was more exciting than exciting. Some rich people privately organized underground challenge tournament in war-torn areas and on the open sea to satisfy their own desires. Challenge tournament without referees. Even if no one died in the real fight, there would definitely be scenes of blood splattering everywhere and bones breaking, which would excite the beastly side of people. Of course, the fighters who were willing to make quick money in the challenge tournament weren't very strong. If there was a Dan stage 7th pin or 6th pin fighter, even if they owed a lot of money, there would be someone to vouch for them and they would have the opportunity to repay their debts slowly. No need. Lu Cheng glanced at Yanzhika and declined with a smile. Tomorrow he would stay at home with Ku and massage her belly. He had left this day empty in his previously cancelled travel plan. Alright, I'll find you next time out at sea. With your listening skill, you'll definitely catch a lot of fish. Zhang Li didn't insist. He left the Ji family's old house with Han Jingqiao and Guogua and got into his SUV. He took off the dark brown prayer beads and put them on the gearshift. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "What do you think? What do you think of Lu Cheng?" "He's quite gentle, friendly, and introverted." Han Jingqiao rubbed his eye bags and answered seriously. "But don't you think his aura is very strong? It's the kind of feeling where you can do whatever you want and we can only listen obediently." Guogua frowned and said softly, "Ah, that's normal. That's the confidence of a mighty one accumulated through countless victories. My mother was the same. She didn't need to get angry or speak loudly. As long as she decided something, I wouldn't dare to say a word." Han Jingqiao laughed at himself. Let alone a heavenly son of the era like him. Yeah. Zhang Li started the engine and started the car. "Anyway, regardless of whether he can become a physical invulnerability expert in the future, I think he'll definitely become an inhuman," Han Jingqiao added. "We're not strong and we don't have the heart to practice martial arts. It's good to make more friends like him." Yo, I didn't expect our young Master Han, who loves wine, cars and women, to say something like that. Guogua laughed. Han Jingqiao was a typical spoiled brat. "This is called being prepared for danger in times of peace," he replied. Zhang Li nodded in agreement and said slowly, "I didn't advise you in vain. Why do you think Lingxi had to come back today? Is it because of their sisterly relationship?" "Isn't it?" Guogua and Han Jingqiao asked in surprise. Zhang Li chuckled. The Ji family is a typical martial arts family. Although they have a lot of assets, money and power, they're still ranked by their strength. Before he could finish, Guogua interrupted him. She played with her wavy hair and frowned. "Uncle Ji and his siblings are very close. They're very close. That's because old master and old madam are pressuring him. Haha, where there are people, there will be the underworld. Where there is money and power, there will be disputes. How many mistresses did Uncle Ji keep outside in order to have a strong son and daughter to stabilize his foundation? It's a pity that none of them are good enough. He doesn't even dare to bring them home." Zhang Li sighed. Lingxi has shed countless tears because of this. She may seem like a carefree playboy, but she knows better than anyone else. She knows she can't achieve anything in martial arts, so she doesn't want to fight for anything. She just wants to maintain her current status in life. It's the most reasonable and practical choice for her to continue befriending Yan Zhika. Especially since she has an amazing boyfriend, the kind that's really amazing. Lu Qing had been interacting with the Heavenly Sons of China recently, making it seem like there were many young martial artists of this level. In fact, there might not even be one in several provinces. At least Zhang Li and Han Jingqiao were around. Previously, only Lin Ke was slightly close. In a situation where a high-ranked Dan stage inhuman could become the upper class of a province, it was normal for the Heavenly Sons of China, who had a high chance of reaching the physical invulnerability stage, to be highly valued. Brother Li. Han Jingqiao was stunned. He couldn't help but gasp. You're really good at hiding your strength. You see things so clearly. Zhang Li sneered. My family has a lot of people. If I were really stupid, I would have been swallowed up by others. How could I be the young master? He sighed again. I'm really envious of Lu Cheng and the others. They're strong and don't have to worry about scheming. Anyway, I'm waiting for a chance to help him or be helped by him. Either way, it would improve their relationship. In the guest room of the Ji family's old house, Lu Qing didn't try to sneak into the room under the watch of a physical invulnerability expert. After washing up, he lay on the bed and received a call from his mother. After a few words, Qi Feng said mysteriously, Your brother has made a fortune recently. Lu Qing was dumbfounded. Lu Yanwei really succeeded in starting his own business? I haven't heard him mention it recently. Erzi has expanded his business to Xiushan. He asked your brother to help him and even gave him shares. Qi Feng gossiped excitedly. She wasn't jealous because of this. After all, her son was very promising and not just anyone could catch up with him. Lu Qing was stunned for a moment. Who's Erzi? Qi Feng didn't know what to say. After a while she said, He's a relative from Qingfu. He often comes to visit your grandparents recently. I remember now. He's a nice guy. Lu Qing said perfunctorily. He has no taste. How could he ask your brother for help? Look at how many things he has failed. Qi Feng insisted that Lu Yanwei didn't have the ability to start his own business. It doesn't matter. After all, we're not the ones who suffer losses. Lu Qing laughed. That's true. Also, your dad got promoted recently. Fatigua put him in charge of the whole factory and gave him shares. Qing, don't you think it's because of you? You just won the national championship and Fatigua mentioned it. What's that idiom? What's that? Qi Feng didn't know much about it. Icing on the cake. Lu Qing helped his mother add, Fatigua is a nice guy. Didn't he help me in my hour of need back then? That's true. Anyway, if he really asks you for help, don't worry about us. Help if you can. Don't worry if you can't. Qi Feng said with concern. Yes, yes, yes. Lu Qing replied with a smile. After the phone call ended and the surroundings quieted down, he sighed with emotion. After he won the national championship and gained the reputation of being the heavenly son of the age, everything around him was changing. It might have happened in the past, but it was definitely not as obvious as now. Without him saying anything, the fate of his relatives and friends had changed. Until now, Lu Qing really understood what it meant to change one's status. Chapter 421. While Lu Qing was on the phone with Qi Feng, Ji Lingxi kicked off her slippers and sat cross-legged on the bed in Yanzhika's private bedroom. She looked at her cousin who had just changed into her nightgown with a faint smile. Ko, you're so good at keeping secrets. Do you still think I'm your sister? I saw you hugging Lu Qing in the finals a few days ago. That's how I guessed you two were together. If it were before today, Yanzhika would have been a little proud of her cousin's words. However, the truth told by Lu Qing had dispelled her complacency. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She replied, I didn't mean to lie to anyone. Grandpa and Grandma already knew. Sister Lingxi, it's because you're living too freely and don't care about me. That's why you didn't find out, right? She had kept it a secret for a long time. Except for her father, she couldn't keep it a secret from anyone. Why was she so careful with Cheng in the beginning? Ji Lingxi was at a loss for words. She combed her hair and said, Didn't I tell you that some guys wanted to pursue you? What did you tell me? I don't want to find a boyfriend for the time being. Isn't that a lie? She changed her voice and tone to Yanzhika's to describe the original words. I didn't lie to you. I already have a boyfriend. Of course I won't find another one. I have to be wholehearted in love. How can I have a foot in two boats? Yanzhika retorted righteously. As she spoke, her lips curved into an unconcealable smile. I've already thought about how to explain it. Lingxi's mouth twitched. She said bitterly, I really want to pinch your face. In childhood, Zhika had cute baby fat. Lingxi almost developed the hobby of pinching her face. Without waiting for her cousin to speak, she changed the topic and gossiped excitedly. When did you and Qing get together? How long? She had asked similar questions on QQ before, but Zhika always changed the topic skillfully. She didn't want to share her and Cheng's private affairs with others, even her cousin. Now Lingxi finally had a chance to interrogate her directly. Zhika's eyebrows twitched. She pursed her pink lips and answered reluctantly, We got together on Valentine's Day last year. Speaking of this, she suddenly felt sweet and unknowingly added, He chased after me for a semester. Ayaya, I really want Qing to chase after me again. I didn't feel anything back then and didn't get to enjoy it properly. Valentine's Day last year? At that time, Lu Qing hadn't reached 9th pin yet, right? Lingxi recalled the introduction she had read about Lu Qing. Probably a weak 9th pin, Zhika retorted seriously. Lingxi took a deep breath and furrowed her brows. She said in surprise, In other words, when you two got together, he was just a newcomer who didn't show any signs of becoming a heavenly son of the age at all. You have good taste. At that time, I didn't think that he would be so talented as to reach rank 6 so quickly. Zhika rolled her eyes and bit her pink lips. She said, I just felt that he was silly and very attentive to me. Yes, very attentive. He was also very motivated and willing to work hard. Chatting with him and going through the challenge tournament with him were very interesting. That's why I fell in love with him. As she spoke, her tone gradually softened. Obvious sweetness and happiness overflowed between her eyebrows. Her eyes were like ripples in the spring breeze. At this moment, Lingxi felt that her cousin was too beautiful to look at directly. She was blinded by the happiness in her words. Why were all my 3 boyfriends useless and unmotivated? But could pick an old classmate who had just reached 9th pin and pick a heavenly son of the age? Was there really something wrong with her taste or the standard of her choice? After Zhika finished her narration, she stopped reminiscing and looked at her cousin with gentle and bright eyes. She waved her white hand in front of her. Sister Lingxi? Lingxi came back to her senses and decided not to continue this topic that would make her feel sad. She chuckled and said, Did I disturb you and Lu Qing by calling you before? Zhika was stunned at first, but then she understood. Thinking of the charm in the car, she couldn't help but blush and deny it. Of course not. Hey, I'm experienced. First love aside, I have at least 2 serious ones. When you picked up the phone, even as a woman, my heart skipped a beat. If it were a man, he would have knelt down and said, Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll give you whatever you want. Lingxi said. Lingxi teased. She reached out and poked her cousin's collarbone. Besides, isn't there physical evidence? Zhika looked down blankly and saw a red, obvious kiss mark on her delicate collarbone. Her collar was wrinkled with gauze and covered her collarbone in a refined and elegant manner. Even Lu Qing didn't notice that he had left a mark. It was only when she changed into her nightgown that everything was exposed. All of a sudden, Zhika felt her face burning. She wished she could find a hole and hide in it. She had a subtle feeling of being caught red-handed in bed. She jumped out of bed in embarrassment and anger and ran to the dressing mirror. She took a selfie on her collarbone and sent it to Lu Qing. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. My cousin saw it. Lu Qing had just finished lamenting that the fate of his relatives and friends had changed because of him when he saw the girl's message. I was too excited just now. Lingxi saw the whole process of Zhika getting out of bed and taking a selfie. She suddenly felt a sense of loss. This was the kind of pureness and passion that only real first love had. Her first love, which was like a child's play, came to an abrupt end. It couldn't even be considered a first love. By the time she fell in love with him for the second time, she loved him so much that they hurt each other so much that they broke up in the end. By the time she had a boyfriend for the 3rd time, her heart had already aged. She thought more and did less. She was no longer pure and unrestrained. Seeing Zhika come back bashfully, Lingxi adjusted her mood and smiled. Let's sleep together tonight. I have a lot of things to ask you. Okay. Zhika hesitated for a while and then nodded. When Lingxi went back to the bedroom to take a shower and change into her nightgown, she lay on the bed and buried her face in the pillow. She raised her legs and swung them. She had planned to calm down and get rid of the blush on her cheeks. However, she inexplicably recalled the passion by the river and the panic between them. Zhika suddenly sat up and bit her lower lip. She picked up her phone and opened the search page. She seriously thought about the brand and model of the car she had driven before. Then, she bashfully typed a line of words in the search bar with a hint of a smile. Can the passenger seat of XXX car be flat? How do I do it? Click. The search results refreshed. Yenjika had just browsed a few when she suddenly received a message from her boyfriend. Ko, what's the brand and model of the car we just drove out of? Lu Qing asked with an emoji pushing up his sunglasses. Seeing the familiar question, Yenjika's face turned red again. She replied with 2 words, pervert. Pervert? Lu Qing looked at the inexplicable answer and scratched his head in confusion. I just thought that this car was good. It was fast and stable. If I need a car in the future, I can consider it. That's why I asked. How did I become a pervert? The next morning, Lu Qing temporarily put his doubts to the back of his mind. He got up on time, washed up, and went out. He found a corner in the spacious courtyard of the Ji family's old house. Breathing in the fresh air, he visualized the swordsman formula and the corresponding internal training methods of Frost Force and Zhurong Force. The injury on his arm would be healed by the end of May. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to practice his moves. Instead, he concentrated his qi and blood to comprehend the force concentration of the balance between ice and fire. In practice, he felt the experience of the yin and yang 2 forms that old Master Ji had shown him yesterday. The key to the inhuman level was the strengthening of one's willpower and the improvement of one's mental control over one's root pulp. Under the accumulation of internal training, one's body would show signs of supernatural abilities, and one's quality would change. However, this did not mean that one could enter the inhuman level seamlessly with supernatural abilities. Possessing certain characteristics due to this realm and possessing similar characteristics due to certain characteristics were completely different. They were fundamentally different. Lu Cheng's ice and fire supernatural ability came from the stimulation of the Jin Dan and the blending of power, which was different from his Frost Force and Zhurong Force. If he wanted to enter the inhuman level, he still had to follow the prescribed internal training and change his root pulp so that it was compatible with the martial arts instead of the Jin Dan. When the supernatural ability of ice and fire, Frost Force, and Zhurong Force were perfectly integrated, there would be no difference. That was one of the main conditions to enter the inhuman level. His qi and blood, spirit, and force all contracted and embraced each other in balance. Then they quickly collapsed and rushed out. Lu Qing observed the subtle changes in his body, looking for the traces of the changes of yin and yang, ice and fire. Unknowingly, the sky was bright and the sun was piercing. Lu Qing put away his stance and exhaled a mouthful of foul air, ending the morning training. His physical qualities were not at the level of the top 6th pin. How could he enter the inhuman level in one step? Calming down, Lu Qing returned to the house and met Ji Jianzhang and Dou Ning, who had also returned from training. They nodded in satisfaction. After breakfast, Ji Lingxi went out to see to play. Yenjika's stomach started to hurt, so she went back to her room to lie down. Lu Qing went to sleep beside her and rubbed her stomach with his warm hands. Yenjika felt the familiar support and the care to relieve the pain. She felt that the pain was not so bad. Sneaking a glance at Lu Qing, she suddenly recalled what her cousin Ji Lingxi had said last night. Ku, are you still going abroad? Yes. Are you willing to give up your Lu Qing? Are you not afraid? Are you not afraid of problems? I believe in him and I believe in myself. Then enjoy it. There is only 1 year and 3 months left. Hearing this, Yenjika's mood inexplicably darkened. She couldn't help but lean closer to Lu Qing. There is only 1 year left. I have to cherish every day with Cheng. After the pain of the first day passed, Lu Qing and Yenjika had a good time in Linning with their tour guide Ji Lingxi. On the afternoon of the 4th, they set off on their return journey. In the past few days, except for her aunt who went to Shushan study to take care of Lin Ke, Yenjika's uncles, Ling Feng and Ling Yun all had excuses to not come back. When they returned to campus, Lu Qing and Yenjika's life was once again fulfilling. Every day they had to work overtime to make up for the classes they missed. Fortunately, during the national competition they rarely went out. After watching the videos of their opponents, they spent most of their time studying. Finally, they caught up with the progress before the final exam and were confident about their grades. After the last exam, Yenjika was about to wait for Lu Qing when the class monitor told her to go to the school office. Qing, I'm going to the lower house office. Wait for me after the exam. She sent a message with her dimples. Then she followed the class monitor to the dean's office and saw 3 classmates who were in the same training program as her. When the dean saw that everyone was present, he crossed his arms and coughed. Ivan University has made a request. They hope that the training program can be advanced by 1 year and you can go there in your 3rd year. This way you can adapt better and learn better. The school has thought about it and thinks it's a good idea. Seeing the dean's mouth open and close, Yenjika didn't hear the rest of his words. There was only one thought echoing in her mind. 1 year ahead, 1 year ahead. Chapter 422. 1 year in advance, 1 year in advance. At this moment, Yenjika didn't feel happy at all. Instead, she felt flustered and sad as if she had been diagnosed with a terminal illness. At the beginning of May, when Ji Lingxi asked her if she still insisted on going abroad, her answer was firm and resolute. However, when everything happened in advance, she suddenly felt the strong reluctance in her heart. She had promised to go drifting with Cheng during the summer vacation, to go to the northern lands to see the aurora in January next year, to spend her and Cheng's 21st birthday together, to go to Yuanyang Mountain to ask for the lock of love on their 2nd anniversary together, to announce their relationship after meeting his parents, to stick together every day, and to whisper sweet nothings to each other. She thought too much, promised too much and had too little time. Bring the materials. I just mentioned here as soon as possible. The school will help you with all the procedures. If everything goes well, you can leave at the beginning of August. There will be a short-term language training program. I believe it will be easy for you with your foreign language foundation. Well, you can go back now. If you can't remember the materials, here is the list. The dean stroked his increasingly precious hair tenderly. Early August? It's the end of June. That means there is only 1 month left. In 30 days I will be separated from Cheng. I can only see him 2 or 3 times a year. Yenjika suddenly felt breathless and her heart tightened. She endured the sudden throbbing, took the list blankly, and followed the students in front of her out of the dean's office. Yenjika? Suddenly she heard a slightly shrill voice. Yenjika came back to herself and looked up at Huang Shiwen. Huang Shiwen was the one who had received the same training quota as her. Huang Shiwen was the one who had called her just now. What? Yenjika responded blankly. What were you thinking about? I said, when we get there we can live together, okay? We know each other and are classmates. We can take care of each other. Huang Shiwen complained and repeated what she had just said. Her chubby face washed away her gorgeous features, making her easy to get close to. The 2 boys beside her were also discussing the same thing. Yenjika was a girl who would never cry when she was sad. She was used to keeping all kinds of negative emotions in the bottom of her heart and not letting them out. When Huang Shiwen finished, she had already controlled herself and answered with a faint smile, okay, if there is no other arrangement at home. They were all classmates and didn't lack each other's contact information. Without saying much, they parted ways in front of the school building, each with their own business. On the way to the basic teaching building, Yenjika wandered under the shade of the trees, tasting the reluctance and nostalgia in her heart. She had been gone for at most 5 to 6 years or at least 3 to 4 years. She had been gone for more than 1,000 days and nights, longer than the time I had spent with Cheng. There were many accidents, many coincidences, many tests and many suspicions. If she was not careful, her feelings would be fragile and dissipate. Even if I don't go abroad, I can still study deeply, share the Empress Dowager's worries, and do whatever I want in the field I like. Wouldn't it be nice to be with Cheng every day, accompanying him as he climbed to the peak of martial arts, sharing his pain and suffering, feeling his happiness, anger and sadness, and watching each other grow old bit by bit until the end? But if I really give up, I will regret it for the rest of my life. I will feel that my years of effort have been wasted. I will feel that my personality is no longer complete and I will become Cheng's accessory, dream or love. Once again Yenjika sighed as if a hero's breath was short of love. Maybe it's really like what Dad and Empress Dowager said. It's best not to fall in love in college and to go easy. At this moment, a melody inexplicably appeared in her mind. If there is no you and no past, I won't be sad. But if there is an if, I will still love you. Yes, no matter what, I still want to love that silly Cheng. Yenjika bit her lip. Her emotions rose and fell. After a painful struggle, she decided to take the opportunity to study abroad. I believe in myself and Cheng. I believe that we can withstand the test of time and distance. I believe that we can finally walk together and go through all the hardships and happiness in life. Phew. She spat out the melancholy and sadness in her heart. Then she heard the special notification sound of her phone. She took it out of her bag and found that it was a message from Lu Cheng. Ku, are you still not done? Do you want me to pick you up at your school building? Yenjika's eyes turned red because of this simple sentence. She turned her head and looked aside. After a while, she replied with an expression that looked like she was crying and laughing at the same time. I'm done. You stand there and wait for me? Her fingers paused in the middle of typing and then she pretended to type the last few words. I'll pick you up, okay, the usual place. Lu Qing replied with a silly smile. At this moment his phone suddenly rang. It was from his mother. Hello Qing. Have you finished your exams? How do you feel? Qi Fang asked about his studies out of habit. Just right. Not bad. Lu Qing couldn't find any other words to describe it. His grades were probably above 60 or 70. He probably didn't fail any subjects. Qi Fang didn't really care about her son's studies. After a short sentence, she asked the key question. When will you come back? Have you booked the tickets? She lowered her voice and said excitedly, Qing, why don't you bring that classmate of yours home and let mom and dad meet her? It's that Yenjika. You two are destined to meet. High school classmate, college classmate, martial arts club teammate. After defeating Shanbei in the finals, Yenjika and Lu Qing hugged each other passionately and almost kissed each other, which blinded a group of single dogs. At the same time, it also exposed their relationship in front of Lu Jisheng and Qi Fang. That night, during their daily call, Lu Qing witnessed his mother's ability to gossip and was bombarded for a long time. After her son finally grew up and had a wife, he almost forgot about his mother. Qi Fang was quite satisfied with Yenjika, who was very good in all aspects. Plus, they were from the same hometown, so she was more satisfied with them. She kept urging her son to bring his girlfriend back and let them meet her. To be honest, if her son didn't win the national championship and was called the heavenly son of the age, she felt that she would be more nervous. She was worried that her son didn't deserve her daughter-in-law and that they would fall in love in the future. Yes, that's right, that's a phrase she just learned from TV. Mom, I've told Ku that I'll bring her to our house when I'm free when I'm back in Xioshan. Lu Qing didn't specify a specific day because he still wanted to abduct Ku and try to find a place to go on a trip with her before they returned to Xioshan. Okay. You have to tell me in advance. I have to go grocery shopping and prepare a welcome gift. Qi Fang rambled on. Suddenly she remembered something. Come to my door, come to my door. Oh, last summer, didn't Han Er's wife say that a very beautiful girl came to our neighborhood? I wonder whose girlfriend she is. Qing, tell me honestly, it's Yenjika, right? She's here for you, right? Yes. Lu Qing wiped his cold sweat and admired his mother's memory of gossip. Of course, he also had a deep impression of this matter because it was the first time in his memory that he saw and felt the beautiful body of a girl in real life. Moreover, it was the body of his beloved girl. You two were together at that time? Qi Fang's voice suddenly rose. You're all grown up now, aren't you? You hid it from me for almost a year. Mom, I was wrong. I wanted to tell you after my relationship with Ku had been confirmed. Lu Qing's apology came naturally to his mother. Practice made perfect. Qi Fang wasn't angry. She pondered for a moment and said, I told you that you look very smart in your clothes for more than a year. Fortunately, her son dared to bring his girlfriend home secretly after he went to college, unlike the others who were caught fooling around at home in junior high or high school. After chatting for a while, Lu Qing hung up the phone and saw Ku walking quickly toward him. She was dressed in a t-shirt, denim shorts and white sneakers, which showed the youthful look of a student. What are you going to do in the institute? Lu Qing asked with concern. Yenjika pursed her lips and lowered her eyebrows. She smiled and said, there are some changes to the training plan. I'll tell you after it's confirmed. Who were you talking to on the phone? My mom. She urged me to take you home to meet my parents. Lu Qing raised his eyebrows and smiled deliberately. He muttered in his heart, some changes? What changes? He always paid special attention to Ko Qian's affairs. Yenjika, who wanted to say something coquettishly, opened her mouth a few times and only said 3 words with a smile. Okay. Aren't you nervous? Lu Qing asked in surprise. Yenjika was amused. She stared at him and said, it's because you keep telling me that your parents are very nice and satisfied with me. I'm not nervous. You're right. It's good that you're not nervous. Lu Qing asked with expectation, then when do we go back? How about we find a place to hang out for a few days and have a date? Yenjika raised her eyebrows and looked at him deeply. She took the initiative to suggest, well, let's hang out in Songqing for a few days? There were too many memories of her and Cheng here. Okay, I'll make a guide later. Let's see what's worth playing and eating in Songqing. Lu Qing didn't really care where they went. What was important was to be with his little fairy. Yanjika tilted her head and outlined her dimples. She waved her hand happily. Let's go to the aquarium in the afternoon. We've been talking about going but we've missed it. Speaking of this, she laughed and said, how much do you remember about marine biology? I've almost forgotten. Lu Qing deliberately covered his face and sighed. Yanjika laughed and said, that's good. Otherwise I'll look very ignorant. I'll go back and change my clothes and wipe my face first. I have to take my date with Qing seriously. Infected by his girlfriend's unexpected excitement and joy, Lu Qing was in high spirits. After returning to the dormitory, he quickly packed his luggage and waved goodbye to Zhao Chang, Kai Zongming and the others. It was cool today, not as hot as a few days ago. Lu Qing waited for a while and saw Yanjika coming out with a suitcase. She had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white cotton skirt, a pink jacket, a pair of cute canvas shoes and skin-tight stockings. Her face was covered with light makeup, which made her already beautiful face even more radiant. This was how she looked when she invited Lu Qing to the aquarium in March last year. Lu Qing was really amazed at that time and had a deep impression of her. After taking the suitcase, he said with confusion and amusement, Ku, are you going to relive the past? You still remember? Yanjika asked in surprise. Of course, I almost couldn't move my eyes away. How could I forget? Lu Qing said with a smile. Yanjika chuckled a little complacently, clenched her fist and waved it. This is a date to make up for last year's regret, so it's still the same. I'm looking forward to it. Lu Qing replied with a bright smile. Then he coughed and said with expectation, I've already booked a hotel. Just one room. With my current relationship with Ku, there's no need to secretly book 2 rooms, right? Okay. Yanjika looked forward and nodded slightly. Chapter 423. Lu Qing was overjoyed to hear his girlfriend's affirmative answer. He quickened his pace and felt that they had made a breakthrough in their relationship. He didn't continue to mention the accommodation because he didn't want to aggravate her shyness. Instead he started to ponder. A date to make up for last year's regret? Everything as usual? But I don't remember what I was wearing at that time. Yanjika thought about it seriously and burst into laughter. I don't remember either. She only remembered Chang's tired face, his slightly wrinkled eyebrows, and his movements that made her want to kiss him. Thinking of this, she pursed her lips and lowered her head. Her eyes flickered as she looked at her toes. She wrapped her arms around her boyfriend's arms and leaned closer to him. It's okay. Rough guys wear the same clothes every day. Just put up with it. There's no difference. Lu Qing mocked himself in the way girls usually did. While talking and laughing, they boarded the school bus and arrived downtown. They found the 5-star hotel that Lu Qing had booked. While walking to the front desk, Yanjika suddenly stopped and looked aside. She pretended to take out her ID card from her bag and said, You go and check in. I'll wait for you here. As she spoke, an unnatural blush appeared on her cheeks. Seeing this, Lu Qing understood. He held back his laughter and took the girl's ID card. He said calmly, Okay. Previously, when he didn't return home at night, he had booked 2 rooms at first and then cancelled them later. Moreover, he had always appeared alone and asked Ku to face the front desk with him. Just one room was indeed difficult for a shy girl like her. Well, after a few more times she would get used to it. Now she would leave it to a thick-skinned boy. Putting down their luggage, Lu Qing came to the front desk and handed over their ID cards. We booked it online. The girl at the front desk looked up at him and was suddenly stunned. She blurted out, Lu Qing? You know me? Lu Qing asked in amusement. Yes. The girl at the front desk nodded hard. I watched your national competition. I really liked your performance. You were so awesome and handsome. She was a little excited. Well, I'm really famous now. I have to wear glasses as a disguise. Lu Qing thought and smiled. Thank you. Give me your autograph later. The receptionist picked up his ID card and began to check in. She was stunned for a moment and said, 2 people? This is F***ing embarrassing. Lu Qing said shamelessly, Yeah, me and my girlfriend. Oh. The girl at the front desk didn't say anything else. She quickly made a copy of his ID card and completed the check-in procedures. In the end, she handed the form to Lu Qing and said, Sign your name here. Also, sign your name on this piece of paper for me. For you, shall we? After he was done, Lu Qing took the room card and returned to Yanjika. 1506. Yenjika looked at the receptionist curiously. What were you talking about? The girl at the front desk has watched the Nationals and knows me. She asked me for an autograph, Lu Qing answered honestly. Yenjika froze for a moment, her face turning bright red at a speed visible to the naked eye. She hurriedly turned around and said shyly to the door, I don't live here anymore. The first time she shared a room with Cheng, she met his fans. I am too ashamed to meet them. If I had known, I would have checked in alone and let Cheng sneak into the room. What are you afraid of? We are perfectly justified. Lu Qing comforted her with a smile. We have already gotten the room card. Others have already begun to think what they want. Just let them be. Yenjika had the mentality to throw away everything. She restrained her emotions and followed her boyfriend to the 15th floor, putting their luggage in the room. What are we having for lunch? Lu Qing looked at the cloudy sky outside the window and asked. Their exam was the first round, which ended at 10 o'clock. It was only 12 o'clock now. Yenjika didn't think as if she had already thought of the answer. Spicy crab on the tripod. The one where we had our first date. How could Lu Qing forget this? Yeah, I want to reminisce. Yenjika nodded cutely. After a little tidying up, they went out hand in hand and took a taxi to the place where they had their first date last year. Luckily the door was still open. Lu Qing looked at the sign of spicy crab on the tripod, and felt happy. For the place that carried his beautiful memories, he definitely hoped that it would stay there forever and never change. So did Yenjika. Her dimples deepened and her smile became sweeter. When they entered the restaurant, the waiter was just about to greet them. Before he could say anything, Lu Qing saw the price tag and said quickly, the one that costs 199 yuan, 12 crab, hand-fried noodles, shrimp dumplings, beef. The waiter was stunned for a few seconds and said, Please slow down. I'll remember it. Shouldn't you order the crab first and then check the other options on the menu after sitting down? Yenjika couldn't hide her smile. These were all the dishes they had ordered on their first date, but the quantity was more than double. Qing still remembers. Her eyes softened and she deliberately said jokingly, Wow, you're getting better at answering first. Hey, they're all the dishes we ordered last time. Lu Qing led Ku to a seat and sat down. You still remember? Yenjika rested her chin on one hand and looked at him with bright eyes. Lu Qing chuckled and said, At that time I observed what you liked to eat and what you didn't like to eat, so I had some impression of the dishes you ordered. At first it was a little vague and I only had a vague memory of it. Now that I am here, I remember it. Listening to her boyfriend showing off, Yenjika's eyes welled up with tears. She quickly turned her head to the side and held back the throbbing in her heart. After a few seconds she changed the topic and said coquettishly, I also paid attention to what you didn't like, but you didn't eat anything. This shows that I'm easy to take care of. I eat whatever I'm given. Lu Qing smiled and praised himself. Well, if little Ming was opposite, he would probably say, Do you eat sh*t if I give you sh*t? But Ku would definitely not do that. Then I'll give you the leftovers in the future. Yenjika tried to make her tone light. As usual, the two ate to their heart's content. Their appetite was so big that they ordered 2 more dishes. The waiter was stunned. He saw the boss and insisted on giving them VIP cards. In such a mid-priced restaurant with no luxurious dishes, the two of them could eat more than 3,000 yuan. No matter where they were, they could get the VIP treatment. After finishing their meal, Lu Qing and Yenjika walked along the route of their first date. Qing, do you still remember where you held my hand? The girl asked with great interest. Lu Qing seriously recalled and said with self-mockery, I didn't pay attention to where we were and where we were. My mind was full of whether to hold your hand, how to hold it, and whether you would shake it off. When we really held hands, I was so excited and happy that I forgot the directions. I only had you and your hand in my heart. It was like walking on clouds so light that I wanted to fly. Yenjika pursed her lips and rolled her eyes. She seemed to really feel her boyfriend's state at that time. It was as if a sudden joy hit her heart. She turned her head and looked at the side of the street. She was actually a bit shaken by the decision she made in the morning. What about you? Do you still remember where we tied the knot? Lu Qing asked in reply. Yenjika rolled her eyes and pouted. If you don't remember, how can I remember? At that time I was very nervous. My mind was on your hand that kept leaning towards me. I wondered if you were going to hold my hand, how I should react, whether I would hurt you, whether I was reserved enough, whether I was... In short, my mind was full of random thoughts. I was lucky that I didn't bump into anyone else. Later on, I realized that you were stupid and silly and even held hands foolishly. My heart softened, and I inexplicably took the initiative to hold your hand. Speaking of this, both of them completely recalled the naivety, ignorance, sweetness and passion of that time. They smiled at each other and raised their hands that had been intertwined since they came out of the meal. Although they didn't have the mentality of not knowing where to go when holding hands, they held hands more calmly and firmly. There was a faint sense of permanence. In this way the two walked side by side on the street, warm and sweet. Do you remember that we bought a fresh cream cake here? Lu Qing smiled and pointed at the sign of Mimi bread. Yanjika bit her lip and chuckled. Not only do I remember that, but I also remember that someone lied to me. Oh. Lu Qing was at a loss. Someone told me that the fresh cream cake here was not so sweet and was suitable for me. He said he found it on the internet. Yanjika hummed. The sweetness was just right, but I couldn't find this shop on the internet. Lu Qing suddenly realized what was going on. He smiled embarrassedly. I came here to check it out and try it. At that time, didn't you say that you still need to adjust your mentality and not fully prepared? I was afraid that if I said it, it would be like forcing you to be moved and giving you too much pressure. Before he finished, Yanjika's eyes were already red and rippling. She suddenly took a step forward and threw herself into his arms. She hugged him tightly and buried her face in his shoulder. What's wrong? Lu Qing was startled. Yanjika tried to hold back her tears. Can't I be moved? Lu Qing stroked the girl's glossy black hair and smiled contentedly. It was always a joyful thing to get a response for one's efforts. Let's buy another fresh cream cake later and eat it together tonight. After a while, Yanjika withdrew from Lu Qing's arms and her expression returned to normal. Lu Qing pulled her into the bakery. After buying the cake, they took a taxi to the ocean aquarium. This time, there was no unexpected situation to interrupt them. Look, this is a starfish. After tearing it into pieces, each piece can become a new starfish. Lu Qing pointed to a creature behind the glass. Yanjika was surprised. Didn't you say that you had almost forgotten your marine biology? When I was waiting for you, I crammed it again. Lu Qing answered complacently and pointed to a kind of marine creature. It is. Damn it, I forgot. I failed to show off and became a clown. Haha. Yanjika covered her mouth and laughed until tears came out. After a long time, she wiped her eyes and said, there should be an introduction beside it. If you really can't find it, I'll allow you to search it on your phone, commentator Lu. They laughed and laughed until the aquarium was closed. They found the restaurant where they had their second date and enjoyed dinner. Lu Qing pretended to go to the bathroom and went downstairs to buy a bouquet of flowers as usual. Beauty, you dropped something. He put his left hand behind his back and smiled at Yanjika. Familiar lines and familiar scenes. Yanjika opened her mouth little by little and her eyes were covered with tears. She forced a smile. Flowers? Yes, you dropped it. Lu Qing bowed slightly like a gentleman and handed the flowers to the girl. Yanjika held the flowers and quickly closed her eyes, pretending to smell the fragrance. After a long time, she looked at Lu Qing and said, but I dropped something else. What? Lu Qing asked with a smile. Yanjika's eyes flashed like water. She pursed her lips and turned her head. Boyfriend. Lu Qing burst into laughter and directly sat next to the girl. Their fingers were intertwined. While he was happy, he inexplicably felt that Ku was a little clingy today. After dinner and a walk, Yanjika and Lu Qing returned to the hotel with the flowers and cake. The light in the room was dim. Outside the window there was a river of stars. It was quiet and private. Lu Qing, who had shared a bed many times, couldn't help but think as if he was looking forward to something. At this moment, Yanjika put the bouquet on the table and sat on the edge of the bed. She touched her calf and stomach and said softly, I feel so sore when I walk. Qing, come and help me massage my feet. Pinch my legs. This was a common thing between the two of them, so there was nothing strange about it. However, as she spoke, she suddenly blushed. Unable to hide her shyness, she lowered her head and looked at her right hand that was supporting the bed. Her right hand was as beautiful as a budding flower. Lu Qing's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. Chapter 424. Was Ku inviting someone to join her? While thinking of this, he forgot about the fresh cream cake and threw it aside. He walked to the bedside, squatted down and held Yanjika's left ankle. Just as he touched her silky smooth skin, he suddenly heard the girl's skin and muscles trembling. He heard her heart beating faster and faster. He heard her body temperature gradually increasing. This reaction was completely different from the usual before a massage. Dong dong dong. Every heartbeat of Yenjika's seemed to resonate with Lu Cheng's heart, making his mouth dry and his body hot. He was inexplicably looking forward to something. There was no other contact, no other ambiguity. He already felt his blood vessels swelling as he tried to do it as usual. During this process, Yenjika's heart beat faster and faster. Lu Cheng held his breath, feeling that he was about to turn into a werewolf. Dong dong dong. The slightest provocation was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, like the call from the little fairy, like the starting gun. Lu Cheng suddenly lost control and lowered his head. This place has been sacrificed to the divine beast. The night was short but the passion was long. After a series of ups and downs, Lu Cheng woke up under the urging of his biological clock. His nose was filled with a faint fragrance and his body was warm and soft. Everything was like a beautiful dream. Recalling the events of last night, he unconsciously revealed a silly smile. He only felt that his body and mind were satisfied, and his spirit was perfect. Everything in this world was so beautiful. He raised his head slightly and looked at Yenjika, who was curled up in his arms like a child. He looked at her painful and pure expression, which made him want to protect her. He looked at her beautiful face, which was set off by her long black hair. He felt the girl's delicate skin and the touch that he couldn't bear to part with. He felt her clinging to him as if she was afraid of losing him. Lu Cheng felt that his heart was about to melt. He could still hear the words Cheng echoing in his ears. This was the fusion of spirit and flesh. This was the other person I was closest to. This is the girl I want to protect for the rest of my life. He lowered his head devoutly and kissed the girl's long eyelashes and red lips. His hands began to move unconsciously, making the early morning hostility even more fierce. I won't do it again. Yenjika hit him in a daze and mumbled. She turned over and fell asleep again. It took Lu Cheng a great deal of willpower to get out of bed. He even began to worry about how upset Ku would feel if she didn't see him when she woke up. He almost didn't want to go for his morning exercise. Is this what Ku always says? Long love is short of breath? He laughed at himself, changed his clothes and went out. He found a place nearby and began to train. Both his mind and body were very excited. Although he had slept for less than 2 hours last night, he did not feel tired at all. People are in high spirits when faced with happy events. After finishing the rest of the internal training, Lu Cheng once again tried to comprehend the force concentration. He felt that his willpower had become stronger and firmer. He felt that no one or anything could defeat him. This is the life I want to protect. Ice and fire intertwined, embracing each other in a balanced manner. Amidst the surging and gushing power, it drew the response of the most minute part of his body. The cold light flickered and the dark flames danced. Lu Cheng finally grasped the signs and the perfect reflection of his soul. He grasped the minute details that made up every cell and every bone and blood in his body. This is the root pulp. He opened his eyes, feeling even happier. Grasping the root pulp meant that he was beginning to reach the inhuman realm. This was not a sufficient condition for a breakthrough, but a necessary condition. Since returning at the beginning of May, after nearly 2 months of training, his physical quality had reached the level of the top 6th pin. He originally thought that he would have to wait for a while for the next improvement. Who knew that after a night of dancing with fish and dragon, his mind was settled, his spirit was refreshed and his willpower was restored. Naturally his level increased again. There are still 6 months until the end of the year. I have a good chance of pushing that threshold. Lu Cheng thought happily. Then he put away his stance and hurried back, not wanting to waste a single second. The curtains were closed but the room was still dark. A strange but exciting smell filled the air. Lu Cheng saw that Yenjika was still asleep. He sucked on his fingers and the smile on his face grew wider. He felt more peaceful and happy. He quickly took off his clothes, took a quick shower and got into bed. He hugged his soft and fragrant fairy and slept with her until noon. When he woke up, Yenjika's eyelashes fluttered and she slowly opened her eyes. Then she enjoyed a warm wake-up kiss. Morning, no, good afternoon. Lu Cheng put his elbows on the bed and smiled in a low voice. Yenjika's eyebrows curved and she reached out her hands to hold his neck. She smiled sweetly. Good afternoon, my dear. She no longer felt embarrassed to call him that. Just as Lu Cheng was considering whether to eat first or do something, Yenjika pursed her lips and her eyes wavered. She gathered her courage and said, Cheng, I have something to tell you. The training plan of our school has to be brought forward 1 year. She didn't sound determined at all. Instead, she showed some confusion and uncertainty, as if she was asking for help and an answer. Chapter 425. Lu Qing, whose mind was filled with sweetness and happiness, couldn't digest what Yan Zhika had just mentioned. He was momentarily at a loss. When he came to his senses and understood what was going on, he was instantly struck by a huge sense of loss and sadness. His heart felt as if it was tightly gripped by an invisible hand. A year in advance? That is to say, in 2 months at most, or at least 1 month, Ku will go to a foreign country? The two of them had just joined spiritually and were glued to each other like glue. Right now, Lu Qing only wished that he could be with his little fairy every minute and every second of every day. Just the thought of her going to stay at her grandfather's house for a few days during the summer and being separated from him made him feel lost. Every day felt like a year, not to mention that they would suddenly be separated from each other for a few years. At this moment, Lu Qing's emotions were surging and boiling. He almost blurted out that he should let Ke give up the opportunity and choose to stay so that she wouldn't die. But when he saw the confused and struggling look in her eyes, he suddenly restrained himself and thought of more. This wasn't something he didn't expect at all. He was even mentally prepared for it. It was just that it was suddenly brought forward by a year. This wasn't a reluctant attempt by Ku after they started dating. It was a dream and a plan that had been made long before they met. In March of last year, she had already discussed this matter with him and obtained his consent. She was born with a deficiency. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't enter the dance stage. Her life's dream had slowly shifted to this matter in the past 5 or 6 years. She came from a well-off family. Even if she didn't do anything in the future, she wouldn't have to worry about her quality of life. The reason why she wanted to study abroad wasn't because she wanted to get a diploma, but because she had such an opportunity. An opportunity to follow the world's top scholars, an opportunity to roam the ocean. The Ji family was very influential in China, but in another big country their reputation wasn't so good. Once this opportunity was missed, there might not be another one. When they first started dating, didn't Empress Dowager also make a request? 2 people need to sacrifice a certain amount to break in, but she didn't want to see Ke sacrifice her dream for me. Yan Zhika opened her clear eyes and looked at Lu Qing with inexplicable anxiety. She was swayed, distressed, and struggling because of his silence. If Qing wants me to stay, what should I say? I will. After the crazy idea she had last night, she decided to try the illusory probability and leave everything to God. The girl felt that she had once again lowered her bottom line. Her heart was filled with sweetness and bitterness. Since ancient times, love was the most torturous. At this moment, Lu Qing squeezed out a smile and tried to speak in a casual tone. A year earlier? That's pretty good. Doesn't that mean we can come back a year earlier? Previously, I was worried that I would only be able to fly over and spend a few days with you after you left in your 4th year. Now it's just right. My 3rd year is mainly to guide them and do my own preparation. There are very few competitions that I need to participate in. As for my studies, the dean has already told me that he will work hard to ensure that I graduate and successfully obtain a certificate. I will become the school's golden signboard. It doesn't matter how much I skip classes and take exams. Isn't it just a matter of getting a visa and traveling for more than 10 hours? Isn't it simple? Empress Dowager will probably stay with you for a while at first. After that, you can leave it to me. I will fly over once a month and stay for a week or 2. When you are on vacation, we can still go to the northern land to see the aurora. It's even more convenient. We can still travel to those special places. Yan Zhika stood there in a daze as she listened to his slightly long-winded and confused nagging. Her clear and beautiful eyes were gradually covered with tears. Also, my master has said that one needs to accumulate more knowledge and experience before reaching the physical invulnerability stage. Only then can one have a chance to leap over the dragon gate and soar into the sky. When I go over to accompany you, I can also experience the American martial arts. They are the center of the Western world and have different characteristics from our martial arts. They definitely have stronger aspects than us. Before Lu Qing could finish his words, Yan Zhika suddenly propped herself up and hugged him tightly. She buried her face in his well-defined chest and said in a choked voice, "Qing, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave you." Qing? Her voice was like a reenactment of their first meeting. Lu Qing's heart completely softened and almost melted. He took the opportunity to lie down and let the girl lie on his body. He reached out and stroked her hair that was slightly messy due to the sweat from last night. He smiled gently and said, "Silly girl, you really don't want to go?" The more sad and sentimental she was, the more she wouldn't cry. When Yanjika raised her head, she had already held back the throbbing of crying. Her pink lips moved a few times, but she couldn't give a definite answer. That master was very old. It was said that his health was getting worse year by year. If they missed this opportunity, not to mention whether he would still be alive, there would most likely be no more opportunities. Once such a situation occurred, the outstanding disciples he taught would definitely set up their own schools due to their differences in academic knowledge. There would no longer be such a holy land where so many top scholars gathered. Go. I hope you can become better and better with me instead of sacrificing yourself. On the other hand, I also have to work hard to become a better version of myself. I can't be left behind by you. Lu Qing smiled softly while caressing her. But, you're giving up too much. Yanjika bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth. Her voice was still lingering with hesitation. Why did the role change? Why am I persuading Ku to study abroad? Lu Qing smiled bitterly and answered seriously, 2 people are going to spend a lifetime together. How can we be entangled with who gives more and who gives less? Besides, you also have to give. Every time you have a holiday, you have to come back and accompany me. Every day you have to insist on saying a few sweet words to me. When you encounter a problem or feel vulnerable, don't hide it from me. Tell me and I'll fly over immediately. After knowing that Yanjika was going to study abroad last year, he had been reading similar posts and summarizing other people's gains and losses. That was why he could say such words. Yes. I promise, I swear. Yanjika breathed a sigh of relief as if she had finally found the answer. She stopped struggling and pursed her lips, nodded, and cutely raised 3 fingers. Lu Qing turned back and scratched her cute nose. He smiled slightly and said, You see, I have the ability and free time to fly over to see you at any time. I can accompany you for a few days or even a dozen days or even every month. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. If the security there is not too good, I can also spend a lot of money to hire female dance stage seniors from Shushan Study or Ice God Sect to accompany you and protect you. And you can come back at least twice a year or even more. In this way the test of time and distance will be minimized. I read a book before. There's a very reasonable sentence in it. All the fear of a long-distance relationship is the hatred of one's own powerlessness. Speaking of this casually, he smiled and his eyes became firm. Let me say something that may be a bit boastful. I've worked hard to improve my martial arts to reach my current level. Apart from my love for martial arts and my desire to compete with my idol, isn't the more important reason why I want to make the difficulties between us no longer be difficulties one day? Isn't it so that I can reduce the influence of various methods in the face of challenges and not be powerless? This is the true meaning of protection. If your girlfriend is abroad and you have money and time, but you are not willing to spend time to visit and maintain your relationship, no matter how well you say it, it's just to move yourself. That's all. Yanjika listened with drunken eyes. As soon as Lu Qing finished speaking, she crawled up, lowered her head and pressed her moist lips on Lu Qing's. Sticking out her tongue, they tangled intensely. Because she was not wearing underwear, her body was exposed when she moved. Lu Qing caught a glimpse of her from the corner of his eye. The beautiful scene of red and white was reflected in his mind and ignited his blood. As they kissed, Yanjika suddenly paused and hit Lu Qing shyly. You pervert, when I'm so moved you can. She was too embarrassed to finish her sentence. Lu Qing could only laugh dryly and say, I can't help it. Yanjika burst into laughter. Her previous haze was gone. She propped herself up slightly and looked at Lu Qing with her charming eyes. She suggested softly as if she had made up her mind. Qing, let's get married. Ah. Lu Qing was dumbfounded and confused. He asked back, Are you proposing to me? Yes. Yanjika nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Lu Qing came to his senses and looked at Yanjika, who was serious. He asked again, Really? This is not a joke. This is not a drill? Yes. Yanjika's eyes were gentle and her smile contained both determination and impulse. She counted with her fingers and said, First, we are both 18 years old. We are adults and can get married. There is no such thing as late marriage and late childbirth in China. Second, our household registers are in school. Before the holidays we can borrow them. Yanjika said tirelessly. Her dimples deepened as if she was brewing a jar of wine. Lu Qing was drunk even before he drank. The girl took a breath and blushed. She looked at Lu Qing shyly but firmly. Third, I'm not forcing you to do anything or wait for me. I'm just making a promise. I can protect myself until the end. I want to tell you that I've made up my mind. I'm willing, You're the only other half in my mind. I'm willing to marry you. I want to be your husband and wife. I'm willing too. Before Yanjika asked, the emotional Lu Cheng said, then let's go back to school now and find an excuse to borrow our household register. Then go buy a ring. How can we not have a ring when we get married? Yes. Yanjika's eyes were covered with mist. She nodded briskly. This has nothing to do with other things. It belongs to the two of us, Cheng and Ku's wedding. How can one not be impulsive and crazy in their youth? Chapter 426. After eating the cake and desserts they bought last night, Lu Cheng and Yanjika walked out of the hotel hand in hand and took a bus back to the old campus. They first bought a few sachets from the nearby stores, then slowly walked to the traffic point and returned to the new campus of Songqing University where they had lived for 4 whole semesters. When the scenery of Weishui Lake, the teaching building, the long bridge and the lakeside corridor came into view, Yanjika felt an inexplicable sadness in her heart. She leaned closer to her ex-boyfriend, who was now her husband. Lu Cheng sensed Kuku's melancholy at the thought of parting. He wrapped his right arm around her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. He comforted her with his actions and body temperature. In the quiet but not depressing atmosphere, the couple got off the bus and walked to the administration building with their hands clasped together. They returned the residence page to the management teacher before the end of the day. The excuse they used was the truth. Yanjika's participation in the joint training program had to be brought forward by a year, and the school had to help with various procedures. They didn't have time to get a visa to travel abroad, so they had to return the residence page in advance. As for the American visa that Lu Cheng wanted, he didn't plan to get it himself. He planned to get it done through the Ice God sect, which was safer and more convenient. If there was something that required his cooperation, then he would ask. Otherwise, if a dangerous guy who was close to the inhuman stage entered the country, the inspection would be very strict. When everything was done, it was close to noon. They came to the school restaurant, opened the door of the reserved room, and saw Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru. Since the first time he treated them to a meal, Lu Cheng and his ex-girlfriend's roommates often had chances to meet. For example, when they had a meal in the dormitory, if it was outside the school, they would ask him to be their bodyguard. If it was inside the school, once it was over, he would come to pick Yanjika up, take a walk and then go on a date. After winning the national championship, the couple was even asked to eat 3 times by them. Therefore they were not strangers to Lu Cheng. At this time they all smiled and greeted him. Hello, great martial artist. Lu Cheng was used to being teased. He raised his hand and waved lightly in response. Hello, comrades. The girls burst into laughter at the same time. After they had calmed down and sat down, they threw the menus to Lu Cheng for him to choose. Then they turned to Yanjika and started talking about her study abroad. Why so sudden? Li Liantong maintained a dignified and quiet posture. Kuku, if that's the case, how many years will you be gone for? Zhong Yanru, who knew about this beforehand, asked with concern. Woo, I can't bear to part with my fragrant, fair and soft big Kuku. Although I already have a boyfriend, I still love you the most. The tall and slender Shi Xiangyang, whose eyes were slightly out of focus, said half jokingly and half sadly. She was the second one in Yanjika's dormitory to be single. She claimed that she couldn't take it anymore after being fed dog food for 2 semesters. Following Shi Xiangyang's words, the atmosphere suddenly became gloomy. The sensitive and delicate girls recalled the bits and pieces they had spent together in the past 2 years, and their eyes reddened a little. Yanjika forced a smile and said, "A year early is good. This means that I can come back a year early. At that time, Dirty Tong and Cabbage might still be studying and haven't graduated." Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang had 7 years of clinical experience. They still had a long way to go. Maybe you already have a child and we haven't graduated yet. Ever since she became familiar with Lu Cheng, Li Liantong's pretense had decreased, and she could say such shocking words from time to time. After joking for a while, she suddenly sighed and said, "What should I do? I feel like I've fallen out of love. I can't see Kuku, who always blushes because of my teasing. I can't observe how you fall in love to gain experience. I can't. As she spoke, her voice gradually became softer and she actually choked with sobs. This immediately made Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang's eyes moisten, and they said similar words. The atmosphere became more and more sad, and Lu Cheng also felt a little uncomfortable. No matter how good and confident he had said before, he panicked when he was concerned. How could he not have some feelings for the departure that was coming in a month's time? However, he concealed it very well and his attitude was very proper. He didn't want to affect his little fairy's mood because of this. He exhaled, stood up and said, "I'll go out in order and also use the washroom." This kind of scene was really not suitable for the waiter to come in and order. Okay. Yan Zhika held back her emotions and nodded. After Lu Qing went out, Li Liantong picked up a tissue and wiped the corners of her eyes. She decided to change the topic and liven up the atmosphere. She curled her lips, looked at Yan Zhika and squeezed out her signature smile. "Cuckoo, I remember you packed up and left 2 days ago. Ruru also said that I should have informed you on the day the exam ended." "So?" Zhong Yanru asked blankly. Without waiting for Yan Zhika to speak, Li Liantong chuckled and said, "You left 2 days ago. Why did you suddenly come back to the school to treat us to a meal? You were nearby these 2 days, right? What did you do?" When a couple is about to separate, they can't help but break through their previous boundaries. Why are your thoughts so dirty? Yan Zhika's sadness dissipated and shyness welled up. She habitually interrupted Li Liantong, wanting to change the topic. "Don't explain. Any explanation is a cover-up. If you don't believe me, you can ask Cabbage and Ruru. They definitely don't believe that you can still control yourself at this time." Li Liantong pointed at Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru, who had a look of realization. Seeing Yan Zhika's shyness, she blinked her eyes and lowered her voice. "I don't want to ask about your specific progress. I'm just curious. You know, girls tend to have more imagination than guys when they write about pure love. There are always some weird positions, no diverging. I've seen many stories about powerful martial artists. They deduced the application of their various abilities at that time and broke through the sky. I just want to ask you, is it like this, for example?" "Don't ask." After Yan Zhika understood, she immediately interrupted Dirty Tong's words. Her pretty face became as bright as the sun, and she was so beautiful that it was out of this world. Images flashed in her mind and she felt her cheeks heat up. Seeing this, Li Liantong laughed out loud. "See, I wasn't wrong, right? If Ku and the rest didn't do anything, they wouldn't have said, 'Don't ask,' just now. Instead, they would have said, 'How would I know? Sai, our favorite Cabbage has really been taken by that guy outside.'" "You tricked me?" Yan Zhika blurted out. She was at a loss and embarrassed. "I actually got tricked by Dirty Tong and admitted it myself. It's mainly because you have a guilty conscience." Li Liantong covered her mouth and laughed. After coming back to their senses and understanding the situation, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru couldn't help but laugh. They either leaned on the table or lowered their heads, laughing heartily. Infected by them, Yan Zhika gradually started laughing as well. She felt that she really wasn't cut out for doing bad things, unless Qing brought her along and helped to cover it up. At this moment, Lu Qing came back from the washroom. He pushed the door open and said in surprise, "What are you guys laughing about?" Shi Xiangyang, Zhong Yanru and the rest looked at each other. Recalling Li Liantong's example, they laughed even harder and almost slammed the table and chairs. Yan Zhika was also embarrassed and amused. She couldn't say anything. Lu Qing looked at them blankly and felt that he really couldn't understand. These 4 girls were so sad and sorrowful just a moment ago. Why are they smiling so brightly and happily in the blink of an eye? Girls are so complicated. The meal was sometimes sad and sometimes cheerful. However, all banquets must come to an end. Amidst the mess of cups and plates, Lu Qing called the waiter and paid the bill with his phone. After leaving the restaurant, they stood at the door. Zhong Yanru teared up again and said, "Ku, take care of yourself over there. Remember to come and play with us when you come back during the holidays." Okay. Yan Zhika tried her best not to cry and simply nodded in response. Just as Shi Xiangyang was about to speak, she suddenly lost her voice. After taking a deep breath, she said, "Ku, keep in touch when you're free. Now is the age of the internet. Everyone can still chat frequently. You and your Qing have to be good. We're waiting for you to get married and give us red packets." "That's right. I have high hopes for you guys. You'll definitely make it to your wedding day." Li Liantong imitated Yan Zhika's light-hearted tone. However, the redness at the corner of her eyes and the mist in her eyes had already deeply betrayed her. After a moment of sadness, Lu Qing and Yan Zhika bade farewell to them. They looked at each other and held hands again. If Dirty Tong and the others know that they can give us red packets now, they'll definitely be shocked. Yan Zhika smiled with complicated emotions. More than that, it's inevitable that there will be a floor full of glass shards. Lu Qing sighed and smiled faintly. After that, the newly married couple remeasured the many places they had left behind memories with their footsteps. From the lakeside where the grass was long and the birds were flying, to the desolate and vast western district, from the long bridge where they often met to the teaching building where they had lessons every day, in the next 2.5 days they rarely went out. Other than eating and practicing martial arts, they stayed in the hotel room. There were even 2 times when they directly ordered takeout. One of them had abnormal physical strength and was full of vigor, while the other was bursting with emotions and was indulging in youthfulness and passion to their heart's content. They couldn't wait to become conjoined twins. On Monday, June 30th, Yanjika received the materials sent by Yan Kai and Ji Mingyu. She handed them over to the school office and embarked on the journey back to Xioshan with Lu Cheng. When there was a need here, she would come back to cooperate. However, at that time, it would most likely be Empress Dowager instead of Lu Cheng who would accompany her. June 30th, 5:40 p.m. The high-speed train was speeding and was about to arrive at Xioshan Station. Lu Cheng didn't play with his phone. He tilted his head and looked at the exhausted fairy who was sleeping. Thinking of the crazy days these days, his heart was full of tenderness and sweetness. He felt that his wife was so beautiful and he liked her so much. At first he put his arm around Yanjika's shoulder. Then he felt that it wasn't enough, so he slid down to hold her slender waist. Then he felt that it wasn't enough, so he leaned over and held her completely in his arms, breathing in her fragrance. After a while, Yanjika woke up from her sleep with trembling eyelashes. She looked up and saw Lu Cheng's familiar face. The loss caused by the nightmare immediately disappeared. She reached out and hugged her husband's waist. After hugging quietly for a while, their phones rang at the same time. It was from each other's mother. "Hello, Mom. What's up?" Lu Cheng answered the phone in surprise and lowered his voice. Yanjika beside him also spoke in a similar tone. Chi Fang nagged, "You're coming back soon, right? We were going to eat at home tonight, but your grandpa asked us to come over. He said that Ertzi wanted to treat us. He heard that you're back, so he insisted on treating us." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.